My child, still your thoughts, and hear me. There is something I must speak to you now, something that cannot wait. The time has finally arrived, and you can feel it pressing against your spirit like a truth demanding to be heard. In this moment, the time has finally arrived. I must speak is not merely a title, but a divine interruption, a sacred summons calling you to attention. What I am about to reveal reaches into the deepest parts of your heart, touching places you've ignored, buried, or long forgotten. Listen closely, for these words carry the weight of destiny, healing, and awakening meant specifically for you. My child, do you realize how long I have been waiting for this very moment with you? Not because I am bound by time as you are, but because your heart has finally reached the place where it can truly hear me. You have felt it, haven't you? That quiet ache, that pull inside that you could never quite put words to. A stirring in your spirit that whispered, something is coming, something has to change. You thought it was just emotion, or stress, or imagination, but it was me, gently turning the soil of your heart, preparing you for this conversation. I have watched every season of your life, not from a distance, but as one who has walked beside you in every step, even when you did not notice me. I have seen the days when you pushed through with a brave face while your soul trembled inside. I have listened to the prayers you spoke, and the prayers you were too tired, too afraid, or too ashamed to say out loud. I heard the sigh you released when you lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, wondering if I still remembered you, if I still had a plan, if I still cared. I have not only remembered you, I have been leaning toward you. The time has finally arrived, not because I have changed, but because you have reached the threshold I always knew you would reach. You are weary of carrying what was never meant to sit so heavily on your shoulders. You are tired of trying to make sense of every disappointment alone. You are done pretending that the things that hurt you no longer matter. You are standing in an invisible doorway right now, between what has been and what will be. And I am speaking because I will not let you stand there lost, confused, and afraid. You belong to me. I have written your days in my book, and no tear you have ever cried has fallen unnoticed. I waited for this moment because I would not force your heart open. I chose instead to love you toward this place. You see only fragments of your life, but I see the whole design. I see the threads of every memory, every wound, every joy, every failure, and every choice, all woven together with purpose. And now, as you feel me drawing near, I want you to know that this is not your imagination, not a random emotional moment, but a divine appointment that I myself have orchestrated. I am here, right now, addressing you personally, not the version of you that you show others, but the real you, the one behind the smiles and the silence. I have waited for this moment because I am about to speak into places you thought were closed forever. I am going to touch fears you stopped naming. I am going to call out truths you have forgotten and reveal treasures you did not know I placed inside you. Stay with me. Do not turn away. Do not minimize what you sense happening within. This is the beginning of a new unfolding. Let your heart know this. You are seen, you are known, and you are standing at the edge of a holy shift. You have wondered why the silence around your life has felt so heavy, and now I draw you into the truth behind it. You have lived through stretches where your prayers seemed to echo off the walls, where the stillness felt like distance, and where my absence felt more tangible than my nearness. Yet in this very moment, as I speak into your spirit, I open the space that once felt closed, and I let you feel the shift happening within you. You were never abandoned, though the quiet tested you in ways nothing else ever has. You thought the silence meant I had stepped away, but today I reveal that it was a deliberate pause created to awaken depths in you that constant noise could never reach. You learned to endure, to press through, to keep going even when nothing made sense. And though it wore you down, it also refined you. What felt like emptiness was actually preparation for clarity. I speak now because you are no longer drowning in the noise of old fears or the demands of others, and your heart has settled enough to receive what I could not have told you before. I break the silence not because you begged loudly or performed well, but because the timing has matured. You have become a person who no longer seeks my voice for validation alone, but for transformation. When I withheld words, it was not punishment but preservation, for the version of you that existed back then would not have understood the meaning of what I am saying now. You longed for answers, while overlooking the growth happening beneath the surface. Even in your confusion, I watched you cling to hope, even if only by a thread. I saw the way you tried to interpret my quietness, and I saw how your spirit kept searching for me. The searching has opened something essential in you. Now, as I speak, I want you to feel how intentional this moment is. Nothing has been random. Nothing has been wasted. I am drawing the curtain back, not to overwhelm you, but to comfort you with the knowledge that you were never left wandering aimlessly. This new flow of my voice brings healing to the places that learned to survive without guidance. I am restoring a connection you assumed had faded beyond repair. Allow this moment to settle deeply into you, because this breaking of silence is not temporary. You are entering a season where my voice becomes not a rare occurrence, but a steady presence. You will recognize my influence not only in sacred moments but in the rhythm of everyday life. This shift is real, and it is unfolding right now inside you. You have carried wars within yourself that no one around you has ever fully seen, and now I speak to you from the place where I have watched every hidden struggle unfold. There were days when you woke up with a heaviness you could not explain, and nights when you lay awake trying to keep your thoughts from unraveling. You fought battles in silence because you believed no one would understand, or perhaps because you were too tired to explain what was happening inside. Yet even in those private battles, where your fears grew loud and your confidence grew thin, I was there, not as a distant observer, but as one who felt every tremor of your heart. I saw the moments you nearly broke under the pressure of expectations. I saw the inner conflict between who you believe you should be and who you fear you really are. I witnessed the questions you kept locked tight behind your practiced strength, the ones you never dared to voice. You hid your pain because you believe it made you weak, but I saw in it a depth that others overlooked. Your quiet battles revealed the resilience I placed in you long before you knew you would need it. Even when you doubted your worth, I saw a tenacity in you that refused to disappear. Those private struggles shaped a wisdom that could not have come from easy days. Now, as I speak into these memories, I want you to understand that none of it was invisible to me. I walked with you through every anxious thought, every wave of disappointment, every moment you lost direction. I watched you fight to hold yourself together when your emotions swung wildly between hope and uncertainty. I saw you push through responsibilities even while carrying an inner weight that felt immovable. I did not judge your battles, I studied them, and I stayed near you through every one of them. Today I acknowledge the quiet victories that went unnoticed by the world. You endured storms that could have pulled you under. You kept rising even when your heart felt worn thin. You showed courage in ways you have never given yourself credit for. I speak now, not to remind you of the pain, but to reveal how closely I walked beside you in it. What you fought alone, I will now heal with you. What drained you in silence will be restored with strength. You do not need to hide your battles from me. I have already walked through them with you. And I am not finished. I am guiding you into a space where the weight you once carried will no longer define you. You may not realize it yet, but you are standing in the middle of a turning point that carries more significance than any you have faced before. This moment in your life has been forming quietly beneath the surface, shaped by experiences that seem disconnected but were always moving you towards something greater. Every disappointment you endured, every shift you resisted, and every door that closed has funneled you toward this point in time. You have come through seasons that tested your resolve, stretched your faith, and challenged the identity you built around survival. You thought you were wandering, but you were being directed. The tension you feel now is not confusion, it is transition. You have reached a crossroads where the old can no longer serve you, and the new begins to call you forward. I want you to understand that where you stand today is not an accident. The timing, the circumstances, the longing for change, they all align with a purpose far larger than you can currently see. You are being drawn into a new chapter, not through pressure but through alignment. What once held you back is loosening its grip, and what once felt impossible is slowly making room for possibility. You sense it internally, a shift that does not fully make sense, yet refuses to be ignored. I speak to confirm that this shift is real. You are stepping out of patterns that drained your strength and stepping into direction that honors your growth. The restlessness you have felt is the sign that your spirit has outgrown environments that once felt comfortable. You are being prepared for opportunities you did not expect and blessings you hesitated to believe were possible for you. This turning point is not about sudden dramatic change, but about a steady alignment of your life with the purpose I planted within you long ago. As you move forward, you will begin to see connections that once seemed random. You will notice doors opening that would not have budged in previous years. You will feel clarity where there was once only uncertainty. This is your divine transition, and it is happening now. I want you to step into it with confidence, not because you know every detail, but because you are not stepping into it alone. I go before you, I walk with you, and I steady the ground beneath you. Allow this turning point to unfold, for it carries the beginnings of the life you were always meant to live. You have grown accustomed to carrying burdens that were never meant to remain on your shoulders. And now I tell you with certainty that the season of those weights has come to its end. You pushed through days when the heaviness felt like a second skin, something you learned to live with even though it drained your strength. You convinced yourself that you had no other choice, that the responsibilities, regrets, and pressures attached themselves to you permanently. Yet beneath that load, I watched the slow unraveling of your energy, your joy, and your inner freedom. You kept going because you believed quitting was not an option, but every step you took under that weight chipped away at pieces of you that deserved rest. I want you to know that the weariness you feel is not weakness. It is a sign that you have carried far more than any heart should be expected to bear. Now, as I speak into your spirit, I reveal that the time assigned to those burdens has reached its expiration. You are stepping into a moment where certain pressures will lose their grip. You may not understand how or why at first, but you will notice internal shifts, subtle at the beginning, that signal release. You have carried emotional strain, work stress, relational tension, and self-imposed expectations, and these layers have shaped how you move through life. Even when others praise your strength, I saw how exhausted you truly were behind the surface. You held responsibilities that felt noble, but some of them quietly suffocated your hope. You endured disappointments that stacked up until your heart forgot what lightness feels like. Yet today I tell you that I am lifting what has overstayed its place in your life. You will begin to sense room where there used to be pressure. The weight you carried taught you endurance, but it was never meant to define your existence. You will move forward with clarity that frees your steps and softens the tension inside your chest. Allow yourself to release what I am removing, even if you grew familiar with it. You do not need to hold what drains you simply because you survived it once. I am restoring balance to your inner world, creating space for peace to take root. This shift is happening not because you forced it, but because you reached the point where your spirit cannot remain under unnecessary strain. This is your moment of release, and as you let go, you will recognize how differently life feels when you are no longer carrying what was never meant to stay. You may not realize how long I have waited for the readiness I now see within you, and that is why this moment carries so much significance. You spent years trying to make sense of things by yourself, sorting through emotions, memories, failures, and hopes with limited understanding. There were times when my voice reached for you, yet the noise surrounding your life drowned out the gentle guidance meant to steady you. There were moments when I spoke through circumstances, but your heart was too overwhelmed to recognize my direction. You were not wrong or stubborn. You were simply navigating internal landscapes that required time to settle. You needed space to outgrow old fears, to loosen attachments to outdated beliefs, and to mature beyond the habits that kept you from trusting what I wanted to show you. Now, as I speak more directly, it is because something within you has shifted. The desire to hear has become stronger than the desire to control. The longing for clarity has grown deeper than the need to maintain old patterns. You stand in a place where your heart is open, your mind is receptive, and your spirit is able to discern what once felt confusing. This readiness did not appear overnight. It formed through pain, reflection, endurance, and growth. You discovered truths about yourself that humbled you. You confronted fear you once avoided. You faced circumstances that stripped away illusions. Those experiences softened the inner walls that used to block my guidance. I speak now because the version of you standing here is not the same as the one who once struggled to listen. You have gained emotional maturity, spiritual sensitivity, and a willingness to shift when necessary. This is why my words now reach you with a clarity that feels new, even though my presence has been with you all along. I speak because you are finally positioned to understand the meaning behind what I am revealing. I speak because your heart is ready to receive wisdom instead of resisting it. I speak because you have reached a level of personal honesty that allows truth to resonate deeply. You no longer cling to old narratives that once clouded your perception. You have space within you now, room for revelation, direction, peace, and transformation. As you listen, you will notice your inner world aligning with what I speak. The clarity you once begged for is now unfolding because you are prepared to apply it. This moment signifies growth, and I honor that growth by speaking into your life with precision meant to guide your next steps. You are ready, and because you are ready, I will speak in ways you cannot miss. You may not recognize the connection between your prayers and the shift happening within you now, but I assure you that every petition you whispered has shaped the foundation of this moment. You prayed in ways that came from desperation, in ways that came from longing, and in ways that came from simple trust when you had no strength left. Some prayers were spoken through tears, some through frustration, and some through quiet determination. Others never reached your lips but lived in the ache of your heart. I received them all. Not one was discarded, misunderstood, or overlooked. You believed that many of your prayers went unanswered, but they were gathering, building, forming an unseen structure of alignment designed to bring you to this place in your journey. Your prayers became bricks in a spiritual architecture you could not see forming beneath your daily life. They influenced timing, opened paths, closed harmful doors, redirected harmful intentions, and softened areas within you that would have resisted change. You prayed for strength without knowing it would come through endurance. You prayed for clarity without realizing it would emerge through seasons of silence. You prayed for transformation without anticipating the challenges required to reshape your inner world. Every prayer carried intention and faith, even if small, even if fragile. They all contributed to the alignment unfolding now. You stand in a moment created by conversations you thought I ignored, You asked for guidance, and now you receive it because the conditions within your heart and life have matured enough to sustain what I am showing you. You asked me to help you grow, and that growth made you ready for deeper understanding. You asked me to remove what was harming you, and though you did not see the process at first, the separation has already begun. Every prayer was a seed planted in soil you did not realize was fertile. Those seeds have taken root, and the results are rising to the surface. You are stepping into outcomes shaped not by chance but by the spiritual investment you made through prayer. This moment holds weight because it is built from your faith, effort, sincerity, and persistence. As you continue forward, you will notice more connections between your past prayers and your current reality. You will recognize how intricately your spiritual longing has influenced your direction. I honor the prayers you gave me, and now I reveal the answers, some in expected ways, others in forms that will surprise you but will ultimately bring you into alignment with what your soul has always needed. You have often looked back on certain seasons of your life and wondered why they felt so empty, so directionless, so painfully silent, and now I bring you into the deeper truth behind them. You assumed those stretches of quiet meant you were forgotten, but my involvement in your life did not weaken during those times. It intensified beneath the surface, where you could not see the transformation taking place. You compared yourself to others who appeared to be moving forward with clarity while you were left navigating confusion, and you questioned whether somewhere along the way you had fallen outside of my care. Yet the reality is that you were being guided into internal places where healing, restructuring, and awakening had to occur away from distraction. You were not abandoned. You were in a protected chamber of growth. This hidden work demanded silence because your spirit needed room to process without interference. You carried assumptions, fears, disappointments, and narratives about yourself that had to be dismantled, and such work rarely happens in the spotlight of constant activity. Those moments of stillness were refining your vision, strengthening your resilience, and rewiring the ways you interpret pain. You felt isolated, but isolation was the exact environment required for certain breakthroughs to form. Your emotions convinced you that nothing worthwhile was happening, yet those seasons brought you clarity you now rely on. The questions you wrestled with in private pushed you toward honesty. The loneliness you felt exposed unmet needs that could no longer remain buried. Even the frustrations you carried revealed desires you had ignored for years. The silence gave you space to confront things you might have avoided indefinitely. I allowed those seasons not to punish your heart, but to rebuild it. I was close to you in ways you did not recognize, guiding your internal shifts, stabilizing what felt fragile, and strengthening parts of you that life had worn thin. That deep work created the foundation you now stand on. Without it, the direction I am giving you today would have felt overwhelming. You are entering a moment where the clarity you longed for is beginning to settle, and that clarity is possible because the hidden work has matured. When you look back, I want you to recognize the fruit born from those silent seasons. They produced the depth, humility, discernment, and steadiness you carry now. You were never abandoned. You were being carefully shaped. The quiet you once feared was actually the environment where a stronger version of you began to form, and you are now stepping into the results of the transformation. There are beliefs you carry about yourself that have influenced your choices, your relationships, your expectations, and even your sense of worth. And now I begin the necessary work of addressing each one. You absorbed certain lies slowly over the years, through words spoken in anger, experiences that wounded you, comparisons that weighed you down, and failures that seemed to define your identity. You held onto ideas about yourself that never came from me, yet they shaped how you viewed your abilities and possibilities. You convinced yourself that your voice did not matter, that your dreams were unrealistic, that your value depended on how well you met the expectations of others. These beliefs seeped into your thought patterns until you could barely distinguish them from truth. They influenced how you interpreted rejection, how you responded to challenges, and how you approached opportunities. They made you shrink in moments you should have risen. They made you second-guess your instincts even when they were accurate. They made you assume your presence could be replaced or overlooked. Yet none of these beliefs match the truth of who you are. Now I speak into these distorted perceptions with clarity designed to unroot them. I highlight the difference between what you were conditioned to believe and what is actually true about your worth, your potential, and your identity. You internalized lies that attached themselves to your memories, creating emotional echoes that resurfaced in moments of stress. I address these echoes not to shame you, but to free you from the limitations they created. You no longer need to carry assumptions that diminish your confidence or distort your sense of belonging. The lies that convinced you to settle, to hide, or to silence parts of yourself are losing their influence. I bring awareness to them so you can step into alignment with truth that restores rather than restricts. As this clarity unfolds, you will notice an internal shift. Old thoughts will rise to the surface, not to torment you, but to be examined and released. You will begin to see the difference between fear-driven instincts and the deeper wisdom I placed in you. This confrontation is not harsh. It is necessary for the life you are stepping into. I free you from the narratives that shrank your potential. I lead you into a new understanding of who you are, an understanding grounded in truth that empowers you to move forward without the weight of false identity attached to your spirit. You are becoming acquainted with a version of yourself that lies could never define, and this awareness marks the beginning of lasting transformation. There have been moments when loneliness felt like a shadow that followed you everywhere, and now I speak directly into that ache because it influenced far more of your life than you realized. You carried responsibilities that forced you to be strong for others while struggling to find anyone who could be strong for you. You endured disappointments that made you question whether anyone truly understood the depth of your struggles. You faced seasons when it seemed like no one saw the weight you carried or the quiet battles you fought. You moved through days feeling disconnected and nights feeling forgotten. Even in crowded rooms, you often felt unseen. That loneliness convinced you that you had to survive by yourself, that you had no support beyond your own endurance. Yet through all these experiences, you were never navigating anything alone. My presence surrounded you in ways that were subtle but consistent. You sensed whispers of hope during moments of despair, and those whispers did not come from your imagination. They came from me. You felt unexpected peace during times when anxiety should have overwhelmed you, and that peace was my presence weaving itself into your emotions. You found strength in moments when you had no reason to feel strong, and that strength flowed from a source greater than you understood. I walked with you in the silence of your heart, even when you could not feel me. I stood beside you when tears fell quietly. I steadied you when your confidence faltered. I protected your spirit when circumstances tried to break you. You were never abandoned, though loneliness tried to convince you otherwise. I want you to recognize the countless ways my presence held you together when everything around you seemed uncertain. You may have thought you were forgotten, but I never took my eyes off you. Every challenge you endured was met with my nearness, even if it did not feel like comfort at the time. As I speak now, I draw your awareness to the truth you could not grasp before. You were carried through seasons that would have overwhelmed you without my involvement. You survived storms that were far heavier than your strength alone could withstand. You endured emotional weight that should have crushed your spirit, yet something always lifted you, supported you, steadied you. That something was my presence woven into every moment of your journey. As you move forward, this awareness of my nearness will reshape how you interpret your future. You will no longer assume isolation in difficult moments, You will begin to sense the quiet strength that surrounds you daily. You will understand that you have never walked alone and never will. There is a truth rising in you now, a truth you once resisted because the wounds felt too deep to examine, and it is this: your pain has shaped more within you than you ever realized. You lived through seasons that left marks on your heart, and while you tried to push forward, you often wondered why the struggle had to cut so deeply. I saw the confusion that followed each disappointment, the discouragement that settled in after another setback, and the questions that surfaced when life felt heavier than you believed you could handle. You looked back on certain experiences and could not find any redeeming reason for them. You blamed yourself for circumstances beyond your control, and at times you even questioned whether your suffering had any meaning at all. Yet every moment of pain held seeds of growth that could not have sprouted without going through that depth. Your resilience did not develop in comfort, it formed in hardship. The wisdom you carry now was born from moments when answers were absent and you were forced to rely on endurance rather than clarity. The compassion you show others grew from your own battles with emotional and spiritual heaviness. Even the tenderness you offer in relationships came from learning how deeply a heart can hurt and how healing truly feels when it finally reaches the places that were broken. While you walked through those painful chapters, you did not see the transformation slowly forming, but I did. The way you process life now hath been sharpened by the very struggles you wished you could erase. I did not orchestrate your suffering, but I refused to let it be wasted. I took what was meant to weaken you and allowed it to produce stability. I took what wounded you and used it to expand your awareness, your empathy, and your depth. You grew in disciplines you never planned to develop. You learned to sit with yourself in honesty. You learned to recognize when your spirit needed rest. You learned to acknowledge what you feel instead of burying it. You discovered strengths you assumed you did not possess. Every tear, every frustration, every moment of confusion contributed to the person you are becoming. There is purpose woven into your pain, even if the threads do not make sense yet. As I speak this truth into you, I am not asking you to celebrate your suffering, but to recognize that it has not been without meaning. What you gained from it will serve you in ways that comfort never could. You are stepping into a chapter where the lessons matured within you begin to unfold in clarity. You will find yourself guiding others through situations similar to ones you survived. You will handle challenges with steadiness that surprises you. You will look back and see that your pain carved out space for strength, understanding, and purpose that now shape your future in ways you could not anticipate. There is a depth within you that you rarely reveal to others, and I have been attentive to every layer of it, observing with tenderness the emotions, memories, and desires that make you who you are. You have tried to understand yourself through the lens of experience, yet your heart holds complexities that reach far beyond what any human eye can interpret. I have watched the quiet moments when your guard lowered and your true feelings surfaced, moments when frustration softened into vulnerability, when hope wrestled with doubt, when longing met uncertainty. I have paid attention to the conflicts within you, the dreams you nurture in silence, the fears you hesitate to admit, and the motivations behind choices that others misunderstand. Your heart has been shaped by joys and sorrows that run deeper than your words can express, and I see every detail with clarity that carries compassion. You sometimes judge yourself harshly for emotions you do not fully understand, but I hold them with gentleness, knowing where they come from and how they formed. You carry beliefs influenced by your upbringing, your past relationships, your personal expectations, and your desire to be someone others can depend on. You often absorb more responsibility than you should, not because you seek control but because you want to prevent disappointment. You push aside your own needs to avoid feeling like a burden, even though your heart longs for the same care you offer to others. These internal dynamics do not make you weak, they make you deeply human. I study your heart not as a critic but as one who values every detail. I understand the reasons behind your reactions, the source of your insecurities, and the depth of your yearning to feel seen and loved. Even your silence reveals truths that your mouth never speaks, and I interpret each one with patience. When you retreat emotionally, I know whether it comes from fear, fatigue, or the need to process alone. When you desire closeness but hesitate to reach out, I see the conflict between vulnerability and self-protection. When you feel misunderstood, I hold the version of you that others fail to see. Nothing about your inner world is hidden from me. I take note of what comforts you, what wounds you, what strengthens you, and what weakens you. My tenderness toward your heart is not distant sympathy, it is intimate understanding. As I continue to guide you forward, I will help you navigate emotions that once confused you, bringing harmony to parts of you that have long felt disconnected. Your heart has never been too complicated for me. I know how to care for you in the exact way you have always needed, and I will continue to meet you in the depths where your true self resides. There is a shift taking place within you right now, and I want you to recognize that this very moment marks the beginning of a future shaped by clarity, direction, and a deeper awareness of who you are becoming. You have walked through seasons where the path ahead felt uncertain, and you made decisions based on limited information because you had no guiding framework to rely on. You wondered if the choices you made were enough to move you forward or if they were simply attempts to survive another day. Yet today, with these words sinking into your spirit, your future begins to unfold with intention rather than guesswork. This conversation is not a random moment. It is a turning point that redefines how you engage with your life. You have asked for guidance, and now you are being positioned to receive it with greater clarity than you have ever experienced. The doubts that once clouded your vision will start to lose their influence as direction becomes clearer. You will sense alignment where there was once only confusion. You will feel grounded in decisions that previously overwhelmed you. This is not because everything around you suddenly becomes easy, but because something within you begins to anchor more firmly. The clarity emerging in this moment will echo into the choices you make in the coming days. You will approach relationships, responsibilities, and opportunities differently because you are no longer navigating them from a place of emotional exhaustion or fear-driven urgency. You will begin to recognize patterns that once limited you, and you will feel empowered to make decisions that honor your growth rather than repeat old cycles. The future forming ahead of you carries promise not because of external circumstances, but because of the internal shifts taking place now. This conversation awakens awareness that changes how you see yourself, how you interpret challenges, and how you respond to the unknown. You will realize that you are not moving forward alone or unguided. You will sense support in ways that strengthen your confidence. You will trust your intuition more easily because it begins to align with the clarity I am giving you. Your future begins not with dramatic events, but with this quiet awakening inside your spirit. You are being prepared to walk into opportunities that once intimidated you. You will notice doors opening because your courage is expanding. This moment marks the beginning of a life shaped with purpose, intention, and renewed hope. There is a heaviness that has lingered in your mind for far too long, a fog that has made even simple decisions feel complicated, and now I speak into that haze with an intention to clear it in ways you have longed for. You have wrestled with thoughts that loop without resolution, questions that linger without clarity, and emotions that shift without warning. You tried to reason your way through uncertainty, but the more you pressed for answers, the more tangled your thoughts became. You've wondered if this confusion meant something was wrong with you, or if you were missing something obvious that everyone else seemed to grasp. Your mind grew tired from trying to hold conflicting feelings at once, while still managing responsibilities, expectations, and the subtle pressure of wanting to appear composed. Yet the fog that settled over your mind did not come from failure or lack of understanding. It came from overload. You absorbed more than your heart had room to process. You took on the emotional weight of situations that demanded too much of your spirit. You navigated transitions without enough support or rest. You tried to stay strong through circumstances that continuously drain you. And slowly, the fog formed, not to punish you, but because your mind was signaling that it had reached its limit. Now I step into that clouded space and bring clarity that does not require your striving. As you listen to me, you will feel a steady shift, not dramatic or overwhelming, but gentle enough to clear the mental clutter piece by piece. The ideas that once collided with each other will begin to separate into patterns you can understand. The decisions you once overanalyzed will start to reveal direction. The worries that consumed your attention will loosen their grip, not because your circumstances change instantly, but because your perspective is being restored. You will begin to see what belongs in your mind and what does not, and this discernment alone will create a calm you have desperately needed. I clear the fog not by forcing your mind into silence, but by realigning your inner world so you can interpret life from a grounded place. You will recognize which thoughts drain your energy and which ones lead you forward. You will sense the difference between instinct and anxiety. You will know when to act and when to wait. This clarity will not come through pressure but through my presence settling inside your thoughts. As the fog lifts, you will discover a renewed confidence in your ability to choose wisely. You will trust yourself again. You will trust your discernment again. And you will walk through life with a mind that feels steady rather than overwhelmed. This is the beginning of mental clarity you have needed for so long, and it is unfolding even now as these words sink deeper into you. There is something sacred in the honesty of your exhaustion, and I want you to understand that your fading strength never placed you beneath my compassion. You pushed yourself through days when your energy ran thin and your motivation faltered. You showed up for responsibilities even when your spirit felt depleted. You tried to maintain steadiness in environments that offered little stability in return. At times, you blame yourself for feeling weary, as though your fatigue were a sign of weakness or a lack of discipline. Yet what you called failure, I saw as evidence of how deeply you have been trying to carry everything alone. You did not fall behind. You simply reached the natural limits of a heart that has given more than it received and a mind that has processed more than it could release. I saw the quiet moments when you sat in silence because your thoughts were too heavy to sort. I noticed the times when you forced yourself to keep moving even though your inner world begged for rest. You tried to convince yourself that you should be stronger, but strength is not measured by how long you can go without help. It is measured by how honestly you can acknowledge the truth of your condition. You have been running on fumes, not because you lacked faith or effort, but because life asked more of you than any soul should be expected to manage alone. I watched your strength fade and felt no disappointment in you. Instead, I saw someone who kept trying amidst pressures that would have crushed many others. Your tiredness does not diminish your worth, your capability, or your potential. It reveals how deeply you have cared, how much responsibility you have held, and how long you have endured. Now I speak to bring relief, not correction. You do not need to pretend you are stronger than you feel. You do not need to hold everything together while your inner world unravels. I honor your humanity, your vulnerability, and the effort you put forth even on days when your spirit felt drained. I bring restoration to places that have been running on empty for far too long. Your strength will return, not through force but through replenishment. You will feel energy rising in ways that surprise you. You will notice motivation returning without pressure. You will regain emotional and spiritual stamina. I am not judging you for feeling weak. I am meeting you in that weakness so you can finally rest in a way that heals rather than just temporarily relieves. You have nothing to prove to me. Your exhaustion is safe in my presence, and your renewal has already begun. There is a moment in every journey when the strength you have relied on begins to crumble, and you find yourself standing at the edge of your own limitations. You are in that place now, not because you have failed, but because you have reached the boundary of what your own understanding, endurance, and strategies can accomplish. You tried your best to manage life with the tools you had. You planned, adjusted, persevered, and adapted, yet somewhere along the way your efforts stopped producing the outcomes you hoped for. You felt frustration rise as you pushed forward but saw little change. You felt confusion settle in when familiar patterns no longer worked. You felt fear whisper that maybe you weren't capable of moving beyond this point. Yet this moment, though uncomfortable, carries profound purpose. You have reached the end of yourself, not to collapse, but to finally encounter me in ways you could not while relying solely on your own strength. When you exhaust your own answers, you become open to the guidance you once struggled to hear. When you step beyond what you can control, you create room for solutions you never considered. When your personal strength runs out, my support becomes unmistakably present. This is not the end. It is the doorway into a new relationship with clarity, direction, and peace. You are entering a season where you will see my involvement not as distant influence, but as active presence. You will notice opportunities forming that you did not orchestrate. You will feel guidance stirring in your intuition. You will recognize timing aligning in ways you could never have arranged. This does not diminish your effort. It expands your possibility. You will begin to sense that you are not navigating decisions alone. You will feel peace where you once felt panic. You will experience insight where you once felt lost. You will notice strength rising in ways that do not come from self-determination, but from inner support you did not know how to access before. You are not meant to carry everything by yourself, and this moment is proof that surrender is often the beginning of transformation. When you come to the end of yourself, you encounter the beginning of what I can do through you. Strength that is steadier, wisdom that is clearer, and direction that is purposeful. Allow this moment to shift you. Let go of the belief that you must fix everything alone. Release the idea that reaching your limit means failure. This moment marks the transition from self-reliance into supported living. The end of yourself is the beginning of seeing me more clearly, and from this point forward, you will not walk with the weight of trying to figure out the entire path. You will walk with peace that guides you step by step. There is a stirring inside you that you cannot fully explain, a subtle awareness that something long dormant is beginning to shift again, and I want you to understand why it feels this way. Your story, the one you thought had settled into a predictable direction, is reopening. You assumed that certain dreams had expired, that particular opportunities were no longer meant for you, and that the chapters you once longed for had been permanently sealed. You learned how to live with disappointment by convincing yourself to stop hoping, because hoping felt like an invitation for more pain. You quieted desires that once burned brightly inside you, not because you stopped caring, but because caring felt too vulnerable. Yet within you there remained a thread of longing, a hint of possibility that refused to die, even when you tried to silence it. I have been carefully watching that small spark, nurturing it in ways you did not recognize, ensuring it did not extinguish under the pressure of life's weight. You reached a point where you believed your story had settled into its final form, but the truth is that your journey is entering a stage you could not have anticipated. I am unfolding chapters that were delayed, not denied. I am bringing forward possibilities that once seemed distant, not because they suddenly appeared, but because you have grown into the version of yourself who can receive them. You once felt locked into a narrative shaped by past failures, old choices, and limitations you carried for years. Yet those boundaries are beginning to loosen. You will sense opportunities resurfacing that once slipped through your hands. You will recognize desires returning with new strength. You will feel clarity rising where confusion used to dwell. This renewal is not about recreating old dreams, but about returning to the deeper intentions planted within you long before discouragement clouded your vision. As this unfolding continues, you will begin to see direction emerging from places that once felt barren. Ideas you tucked away will return with a new sense of possibility. Hopes you buried will rise with resilience. You will discover that what you thought was over was only paused until the right moment. This moment. Your story is not winding down. It is expanding. You are not settling into an ending. You are entering a new direction. Every lesson, every shift, every tear, every moment of endurance has prepared you for what is now reopening in your life. As this new chapter unfolds, I will guide you step by step so that you move forward with courage rather than fear. Your story lives again, not because you resurrected it, but because I never allowed it to die. There are forces that have pressed against your life for longer than you realized. Subtle influences that tried to wear down your confidence, distort your identity, and interrupt your progress. And now I reveal something significant. I am addressing what has opposed you. You have felt the heaviness of resistance in ways you struggled to explain. You sensed that something was working against your peace, your clarity, your relationships, and your steps forward. You noticed patterns repeating themselves, moments where discouragement hit you suddenly, where anxiety rose without warning, where confusion entered your thoughts at the exact time you tried to move forward. You felt tension in places that should have brought joy. You felt fear in situations where peace should have ruled. You felt discouragement triggered by things that should not have carried such weight. These experiences were not imagined. They were disruptions designed to distract you, weaken your resolve, and convince you to settle into smaller versions of your life. But now you are stepping into a season where these influences lose ground. I am confronting every strategy that sought to pull you away from the path you are meant to walk. This confrontation is not chaotic. It is precise and intentional. I am cutting through confusion that distorted your judgment. I am exposing lies that shape your self-perception. I am neutralizing discouragement that worked to slow your progress. You will notice that certain emotional pressures begin to fade. Thoughts that once spiraled will lose momentum. Patterns that once held you will begin to break. This shift may feel subtle at first, like a gentle clearing in your atmosphere, but it will grow stronger as you move forward. You will find yourself thinking more clearly. Your confidence will feel less fragile. Your decisions will come with greater certainty. You will recognize strength rising in places that once felt vulnerable. The forces that challenged your peace will no longer have the same access to your mind, your emotions, or your direction. This is not because you suddenly became stronger on your own, but because I am intervening on your behalf. I am creating space around your life so you can breathe again. I am restoring clarity so you can recognize the truth of who you are. I am dismantling strategies designed to keep you from stepping into the fullness of your purpose. As this shift unfolds, you will sense momentum building, not driven by fear or urgency, but by the steady assurance that you are no longer fighting unseen resistance alone. I am here, actively clearing the path before you, ensuring that nothing meant to break you will succeed. There are parts of you that have gone quiet over the years, passions you once embraced, confidence you once carried, dreams that once fueled your steps. And now I tell you that these dormant places are stirring again. You believed certain pieces of your heart had faded permanently, that the voice inside you that once held excitement had fallen silent forever. Life's demands, disappointments, and responsibilities convinced you to set aside desires that once felt central to who you are. You stopped expecting certain things to bloom because you grew tired of hoping for what never seemed to unfold. You accepted limitations that were never meant to define you, simply because the weight of life made dreaming feel unrealistic. Yet even in that quietness, those parts of you did not disappear. They simply waited. And now, with precision, I awaken what has been lying still within you. You will notice subtle changes, curiosity returning in areas you thought you outgrew, creativity rising in places you believed were empty, courage forming in spaces where fear once dominated. You will sense a renewed connection to desires you abandoned, not because those desires are childish or impractical, but because they align with the truth of who you are and who you are becoming. The embers of old passions are beginning to glow again, and the spark you feel inside is not nostalgia, it is awakening. This revival is not emotional impulse, it is spiritual timing. You are stepping into a season where suppressed potential rises to the surface. You will feel the urge to revisit ideas you once ignored. You will sense inspiration forming in ways that feel fresh and alive. You will recognize that what you thought was over has been preserved, waiting for the right moment to return with greater strength. As this awakening unfolds, it will not overwhelm you. It will feel like a gentle remembering, a rediscovery of parts of yourself that you thought time had erased. Your desires will begin to align with possibility. Your longings will begin to align with direction. Your internal fire will begin to align with purpose. This is not about returning to who you once were. It is about rising into who you are meant to become. What you thought had died never truly died. It simply rested until your heart was ready to receive it again. Now is that time, and I will guide you into the fullness of what is awakening within you. There is a weight inside you that rarely surfaces in your conversations with others, yet it lingers beneath your thoughts and affects how you interpret your life. And I want to address it directly. You have carried regret far longer than your spirit was meant to hold. You revisit decisions you made years ago, moments where you feel you chose the wrong path, relationships you believe you mishandled, opportunities you did not seize, and seasons where you felt unprepared or unaware. These memories sit quietly in the corners of your mind, resurfacing at inconvenient times, whispering that you should have known better, or done better. You internalize these regrets as evidence against yourself, and they subtly shape your confidence, your expectations, and your willingness to move forward. You judge your younger self with information you have now, forgetting the emotional and spiritual landscape you were in at the time. You blame yourself for outcomes you did not have the maturity, experience, or clarity to navigate differently. You assume you could have changed situations that were never yours to control. I see how these regrets have weighed on you, making you feel smaller than you truly are. I see how quickly your mind turns against you when certain memories arise, as though holding on to regret could somehow rewrite the past. But regret does not carry that kind of power. It only drains you of possibility. And now I speak to release you from the grip of these lingering memories. The choices you made were shaped by who you were at that moment, and I do not condemn you for that. You learned through every mistake, every uncertainty, every fear, every misstep. Growth came from the very things you now resent yourself for. You forget how much pressure you were under in those earlier seasons, how limited your understanding was, how raw your emotions felt, how little you had to guide you. You were doing your best, even on days when your best felt inadequate. I am not holding your past against you, and it is time you stop holding it against yourself. Regret has served its purpose. It made you more aware, more compassionate, more thoughtful, more intentional. But it cannot serve your future. The lessons have already been absorbed. The punishment you keep giving yourself is unnecessary. I want you to step into a new way of relating to your past, one where you view those moments not as failures but as stepping stones, You are not defined by what you did not know or what you wish you had done differently. You are defined by who you are becoming. Release the weight. Your future cannot unfold while your heart clings to shame. You deserve to move forward with clarity, free from the chains of regret that have held your spirit for too long. This release begins now. There is a version of yourself that you have struggled to see clearly because your identity has been shaped by voices that never understood your true worth. And now I speak to restore what has been distorted. You learn to define yourself through the expectations of others, family, culture, relationships, environments that rewarded performance but rarely affirmed your deeper value. You accepted labels that came from pain rather than truth. You internalized comments spoken in frustration, criticism rooted in someone else's brokenness, and comparisons that made you feel inadequate. These fragments fused into a false identity, influencing how you interpret your capabilities and your place in this world. Yet the version of you shaped by these experiences does not reflect who you actually are. I see you beneath the layers of insecurity and self-doubt. I see the strength that you overlook, the resilience you take for granted, the compassion that quietly guides your decisions. Your identity is not formed by your failures, your past, or the misunderstandings of others. It is rooted in something far deeper, something unshakable. My words about you carry truth that does not shift with circumstances. When I say you are capable, it is not a hopeful encouragement. It is a description of your potential. When I say you are valuable, it is not flattery. It is recognition of the worth woven into your being. When I say you are chosen, it is not symbolic. It is declaration. The world around you has shaped your identity using fragmented perspectives and flawed mirrors, but I speak from full knowledge of who you are. My words restore the parts of your identity that life attempted to diminish. You are not defined by the moments you regret. You are not defined by past failures. You are not defined by who walked away or who underestimated you. You are defined by purpose that was placed within you before you ever took your first breath. As these truths begin to settle into your heart, you will sense a shift in the way you carry yourself. Confidence will rise, not from ego, but from clarity. You will begin to make decisions aligned with your true identity rather than decisions based on fear or insecurity. You will recognize doors that belong to you and walk away from spaces that were never meant to define your worth. My words restore what life chipped away, and as you embrace this restoration, your steps will feel steadier. You will no longer shrink to fit into environments that cannot hold your calling. You will no longer assume you are less than you truly are. Your identity is being rebuilt in truth, and as this clarity strengthens within you, you will step into your life with a renewed sense of self that confusion can no longer diminish. There are wounds within you that became so familiar you no longer recognize them as places needing healing, and now I bring them into the light, not to cause pain, but to restore what has been quietly hurting for years. You carry emotional scars that grew out of disappointments, losses, betrayals, and moments where you felt unprotected. Some of these wounds were never fully acknowledged because you were too busy surviving. Others were dismissed because you convinced yourself that time alone would erase their impact. Over the years, you stopped praying about them, not because you didn't want healing, but because you assumed the pain had become a permanent part of your story. You believed that certain hurts were simply yours to bear. You accepted emotional numbness as normal because feeling deeply was too overwhelming. You learned to function with heartbreak tucked neatly behind your daily responsibilities. Yet these wounds did not disappear. They settled beneath the surface, influencing your relationships, your reactions, and the way you interpret love, trust, and connection. Now I address these areas with intentional gentleness. I heal not only what still aches, but also what became so deeply ingrained in your identity that you forgot it was ever a wound. I reach into the places you closed off for protection, places where fear hardened your heart, where disappointment shaped your expectations, where rejection made you question your worth. This healing is not about revisiting old pain. It is about releasing what you no longer need to carry. You will notice subtle shifts within yourself, hesitations dissolving, emotional triggers calming, fears losing their grip. You will feel a softness returning to your heart where it once felt guarded. You will sense openness forming where resistance used to rise. Healing does not erase your history. It restores your capacity to move forward without being defined by it. I am touching wounds that you stopped mentioning because you assumed nothing would change. I am aggressing burdens you accepted as unchangeable. I am restoring pieces of you that quietly broke. As this healing unfolds, new strength will emerge, strength rooted not in numbness, but in renewal. You will navigate relationships with greater freedom. You will trust with a steadier heart. You will experience peace where tension once lingered. You will feel whole in ways you forgot were possible. What you once stopped praying about is now being healed, and this healing marks the beginning of a life lived with fullness, openness, and emotional clarity. There is a shift happening within you that signals the closing of a long and hidden chapter, a chapter where transformation occurred quietly beneath the surface while you felt stagnant, overlooked, or uncertain. And now I reveal something important. Your season of quiet growth has reached its conclusion. You spent years wondering why nothing seemed to change, even though you were trying, learning, stretching, and enduring. You felt invisible progress happening within you but could not see any evidence of it in your circumstances. At times you questioned whether the waiting was your fault, as if you were somehow delaying your own life. Yet while you lived through these long stretches of internal work, something sacred was forming within you. The strengthening of your resilience, the maturing of your discernment, the refining of your hopes, and the stabilizing of your identity. These shifts were too delicate and too foundational to occur in a rushed or public season. Your spirit needed space to develop without pressure, and that development often felt like silence or delay. But it was not delay, it was cultivation. I was preparing you for a future that required deeper capacity, clearer vision, and a steadier heart. Now that preparation has matured, the internal work you did when no one was watching has reached its fullness. You are transitioning out of a season defined by hidden growth and entering one characterized by visible unfolding. You will begin to see evidence of the transformation that has been happening inside you for so long. Opportunities that once intimidated you will now seem attainable. Challenges that once overwhelmed you will meet a wiser, more grounded version of yourself. People will notice changes in your presence, your clarity, your confidence, and your emotional stability. Doors that remain shut are beginning to open, not because circumstances finally aligned, but because you are now aligned with what those doors require. As you move forward, you may feel a mixture of excitement and uncertainty, and that is natural when stepping out of hiding and into purpose. The important thing is this: your growth is no longer silent. It will show in your decisions, your voice, your boundaries, your relationships, and your willingness to embrace change instead of fearing it. This new season will ask you to trust the work that has already been done within you. You are not starting from scratch. You are stepping into expression. The quiet was not a punishment, it was preparation. And now the preparation is complete. There are parts of you that once felt solid but became fragile over time, worn down by disappointment, responsibility, and emotional strain. And now I speak into those places with intention. I am strengthening what life has weakened. You were not always this tired, doubtful, or cautious. You once had confidence that felt natural, and hope that rose without effort. You once trusted your instincts, believed in your abilities, and carried a sense of purpose that made you feel alive. But life's pressures accumulated gradually, pulling strength from you in ways you did not recognize while it was happening. You faced seasons where you had to act strong even when your spirit felt fragile. You endured losses that shook your inner foundation. You navigated challenges that demanded more of you than you expected to give. Over time, these experiences created small fractures in your emotional stamina and spiritual confidence, and you adjusted to those fractures by minimizing your expectations, lowering your hopes, or questioning your own resilience. Now I step into those weakened places, not to expose your fragility, but to restore your strength. I am reinforcing the parts of you that felt unstable. I am renewing courage where fear quietly settled. I am building endurance where weariness has lived. You will begin to feel a sturdiness returning to your spirit, a stability that makes you less reactive to stress and more grounded when pressure rises. You will notice that situations which once drained you quickly will no longer have the same power over your emotional state. Your internal resilience is being rebuilt from the inside out. Its strengthening will not arrive through sudden bursts of energy but through steady restoration. You will wake up one day and realize you no longer feel as fragile as you once did. You will make decisions with more confidence. You will handle conflict without shutting down. You will move through uncertainty with a sense of internal anchoring that you did not previously possess. What life weakened is not lost. It is being renewed. I am restoring your ability to believe in yourself, to endure without collapsing, and to rise without hesitation. You will step into challenges with a determination that surprises even you. Strength is returning, not the version born from forcing yourself to push harder, but the version formed through healing, alignment, and clarity. This restoration marks the beginning of your ability to carry what once felt too heavy. You are being strengthened in ways that will support every part of your future. There is a revelation forming that will bring meaning to the delays you once resented, and I speak this now so you can hold it with peace. You will understand why I waited. You carried questions about timing that haunted you in silence. Questions about why certain relationships ended, why opportunities slipped through your hands, why progress halted when you felt so ready to move forward, and why the desires of your heart seemed postponed without explanation. You interpreted these delays as rejection or oversight, assuming that something within you disqualified you from receiving what you longed for. But timing is not punishment. Timing is alignment. There were parts of your life that needed to shift before certain blessings could enter without being sabotaged by old wounds or outdated mindsets. There were emotional patterns that had to be addressed so you could recognize what was good for you instead of clinging to what was familiar. There were fears that needed softening, expectations that needed recalibrating, and strengths that needed to mature before you could handle what was waiting. The waiting was not empty. It was sacred preparation. You will soon see how the delays protected you from situations you were not ready to carry. You will recognize how certain opportunities would have harmed your confidence if they arrived too early. You will see how relationships that ended made space for connections that align with your growth rather than your wounds. There will be a moment in your future where everything clicks: the timing, the closed doors, the redirections, and you will realize that what felt like unnecessary waiting was purposeful orchestration. You were being shaped for something bigger than your earlier self could have sustained. Every delay carried intention. Every pause carrying protection. Every unanswered question carrying preparation. And as this new understanding unfolds, regret will fade, frustration will soften, and clarity will rise. You will no longer resent the timing of your journey because you will see how perfectly it aligns with who you have become. What once felt late will feel right. What once felt denied will feel strategic. And you will move forward with a confidence grounded not in impatience, but in trust. There is a tenderness in the way you have continued to reach for me, even after seasons where disappointment made you question whether I was still guiding your steps. And now I speak to rebuild the confidence that life has steadily worn down. You once trusted with an ease that came naturally. You prayed without hesitation. You believed without fear. You embraced each new day with an expectation that goodness would meet you. But over time, unanswered questions began to cast shadows on that trust. You experienced outcomes that did not match your hopes, and those moments created hesitations that grew quietly inside you. You asked for direction but wondered if you misheard me. You prayed for clarity but feared you were interpreting things incorrectly. You saw others move forward while you felt suspended in uncertainty, and you began to assume that maybe your instincts were flawed or your faith was insufficient. These assumptions weakened your confidence in my presence and my voice. You began to analyze every nudge and question every step, worried that you might disappoint me or misalign with what I intended for your life. Your trust shifted from a natural resting place into a cautious effort that left you emotionally drained. Yet I have never condemned you for this struggle. I have watched you try, even when trust felt unfamiliar. I have seen you return to me again and again, hoping to reconnect with the certainty you once felt. And now I speak to restore that confidence, not through pressure, force, or shame, but through clarity that steadies your heart. I am rebuilding your assurance in my nearness, presence, and guidance. You will begin to recognize my influence in your thoughts with greater ease. You will notice my direction settling into your spirit without confusion. You will feel my peace affirming the steps you take. This restoration is not about becoming perfect in discernment. It is about trusting that I am capable of guiding you, even when you feel unsure. I will not let you drift off course. I will not leave you to figure everything out alone. You can rely on me, not as an abstract idea, but as a steady presence involved in every detail of your life. Your confidence in me will rise again, and as it does, you will navigate your journey with a renewed sense of peace, knowing that you are not hoping blindly. You are trusting a presence that has never once turned away from you. There is a change developing within you that will soon become visible in the way you carry yourself, and I want you to be aware that this transformation is intentional. You are about to walk differently. You have spent years moving through life with caution, adjusting your steps based on past wounds, disappointments, and the fear of repeating old mistakes. You learned to calculate every decision because you wanted to protect your heart from further harm. You adapted to environments that did not value your full potential, and you walked gently in spaces where you were expected to shrink. The hesitation in your steps did not come from weakness. It came from a lifetime of navigating uncertainty and emotional terrain that required you to be overly careful. But this next season of your life will require a posture that reflects the inner strength you have gained. I am reshaping the way you move, not physically, but spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. You will walk with more intention because you will finally trust the direction emerging inside you. You will move with steadier confidence because you will understand your worth with greater clarity. You will approach opportunities with openness instead of fear. You will step into decisions without the anxiety that once paralyzed you. As this shift unfolds, you will notice that your pace changes. You will no longer feel the need to rush out of insecurity or slow down out of fear. You will walk with balance, lined with purpose rather than circumstance. Even your presence will feel different to others. They will sense the stability rising in you, the clarity shaping your choices, and the courage influencing your actions. The old patterns that once caused you to retreat will lose their hold, and you will no longer tiptoe through life as though you are one mistake away from collapse. You have learned enough, endured enough, and matured enough to walk with a grounded sense of who you are. This transformation will show itself in the way you speak, the decisions you make, the boundaries you set, and the peace you carry. You will no longer navigate your life apologetically. You are stepping into a season where your steps reflect the truth I have been cultivating inside you. You are not the same person who once moved through life in survival mode. You are becoming someone who walks with clarity, purpose, and quiet power. There are influences that have surrounded your life, subtle, persistent, and at times overwhelming, that have pulled you in directions that were never meant to define your path. And now I speak with precision. I am removing the voices that have distracted you. You have spent years absorbing opinions, expectations, and judgments that shaped your decisions in ways you did not always recognize. You internalized pressure from others who believed they knew what was best for you. You listened to voices that fed your insecurities, amplified your fears, or compared your journey to theirs. You allowed certain influences into your life because you wanted connection, understanding, or approval, but instead those voices created confusion, tension, or self-doubt. Some of these voices belonged to people who cared for you, but their guidance was rooted in their own limitations. Others were echoes from your past, memories of criticism, rejection, or belittlement that continued to replay even after the moments had passed. And then there were the internal voices shaped by insecurity, exhaustion, and old wounds, whispering narratives that never aligned with truth. These influences clouded your intuition, distracted your focus, and diluted your confidence. But now, I am clearing the noise. You will begin to sense distance forming between you and the voices that once carried too much weight. Conversations that once overwhelmed you will lose their emotional hold. Internal narratives that once felt dominant will begin to weaken. Opinions that once shaped your decisions will no longer carry the same authority. I am refining the environment of your inner world so you can hear yourself again, and more importantly, so you can hear me without interference. You will notice clarity returning, not because life suddenly becomes quiet, but because the influences that once clouded your direction will no longer have access to the deepest parts of your heart. You will feel more anchored in your own discernment. You will find it easier to recognize when guidance comes from truth rather than fear. You will sense peace where confusion used to linger. As these distracting voices fade, the path before you will become clearer, and the decisions you make will align more closely with who you truly are. I am not removing people from your life recklessly. I am removing access to your spirit from anything or anyone that interfered with your growth. You are being brought into a place of clarity, and as this shift unfolds, you will discover how much more confidently you can move forward when the noise around you no longer competes with the truth within you. There is a tenderness rising inside you now, a quiet stirring that signals something you have longed for but struggled to believe was possible. And I want you to hear this with complete clarity. Your heart will learn peace again. You have lived through years where internal calm felt distant, almost foreign to your everyday reality. Even in moments when life appeared stable on the outside, your inner world continued to wrestle with tension, doubt, fear, and the unspoken pressure to hold yourself together. You learned to function while unsettled, to move forward while anxious, to smile while carrying heaviness that few people ever recognized. Peace became something you admired from a distance, something you hoped for, prayed for, even begged for at times, but felt incapable of experiencing consistently. Your mind ran ahead of itself, analyzing every possibility, every potential outcome, every threat, every unknown. Your emotions learned to brace for impact before anything even happened. Your spirit grew used to waiting for the next disappointment as though it were inevitable. This constant vigilance exhausted you more deeply than you realized. But now, I speak into that inner storm with gentleness and authority. This is the season where peace begins to take root inside you, not as a temporary moment, but as a new internal rhythm. Peace will not arrive as something you have to force or pretend to feel. It will emerge as a natural response to the clarity, healing, and growth taking shape within you. As the noise of past wounds loses its influence, your heart will slowly become more open to calm. As the voices that once distracted you fade into the background, your thoughts will settle in ways that feel strange at first, simply because you are not used to the absence of anxiety. You will begin to notice quiet moments that don't feel heavy or tense. Your chest will no longer feel tight in the way it once did. The constant pressure you carried will start to ease. You will take deep breaths without realizing you are doing it, because your body will no longer brace for emotional impact every moment of the day. Peace will come to you through subtle shifts before it becomes a steady baseline. It will show up in the way you respond to situations that once overwhelmed you. It will show up when circumstances arise that would have shattered your calm in previous seasons, yet now you feel anchored instead of undone. It will show up in relationships where you no longer feel the need to perform or over-explain yourself. It will show up in your decisions, where clarity will replace fear-driven urgency. You will learn to trust the quiet again. You will learn to rest without guilt. You will learn to let go without spiraling. You will learn to breathe without tension. Peace is not a reward for perfection. It is a natural result of the healing I am guiding you through. Let your heart receive this truth. Your peace is returning, not as a fleeting moment but as a lived experience. The chaos that once ruled your inner world will no longer dictate how you move. Your heart is being rewired for calm, for grounding, for steady confidence, and for a kind of peace that remains even when life shifts around you. You will not always feel this turbulence. You will not always carry this weight. You will not always be at war with your own thoughts. Your heart will learn peace again, and when it does, you will recognize it as something you were always meant to carry. There is a stirring inside you that you cannot dismiss anymore, a pull towards something deeper, steadier, and far more transformative than anything you've known before. And I want you to recognize it for what it truly is. I am calling you into a new level of trust. You have trusted me in pieces, in the moments when life made sense, in the seasons when clarity was present, in the times when the path before you seemed manageable. But there were also stretches when trusting felt harder than breathing, when unanswered questions created tension in your heart, when fear clouded the truth you once knew, and when circumstances made you wonder if you were walking alone. You tried to trust me while feeling uncertain, and although you did your best, the instability around you often made your trust feel fragile. I understand why you struggle. I know the weight you carried. I recognize the disappointments that made you hesitant. Yet now, I am drawing you into a trust that does not depend on circumstances, emotions, or outcomes. This trust is deeper, rooted not in guarantees but in presence. It will not require you to pretend things are easier than they are. It will invite you to rely on me even when nothing makes sense. You will begin to feel a shift inside you, where peace starts to override panic and where certainty in my presence becomes stronger than the uncertainty of your situation. This trust will not erase your humanity. It will steady it. You will notice that decisions feel less overwhelming because you know you are not navigating them alone. You will feel less pressure to control every detail because you recognize that guidance is available even before you ask. You will learn to release what was never your responsibility and embrace what truly belongs to you. This level of trust will reshape your emotional patterns. It will reduce your fear of the future and soften your regret over the past. It will open your heart to possibilities you once dismissed. I am inviting you into this because you are ready, not because you are perfect, but because your spirit has matured through every season you've endured. This invitation is not a demand, it is a doorway. And as you step through it, You will discover a steadiness that transforms how you walk through every part of your life. There is a shift unfolding within you, a quiet but powerful transformation that will change the way you approach uncertainty. And I want you to hear this with full assurance. You will no longer fear the unknown. For years, the future felt like a place filled with unanswered questions, hidden dangers, and unpredictable outcomes. You stood on the edge of decisions, terrified of making the wrong move, unsure if you could handle what might come next. The unknown became a space where your imagination magnified the worst possibilities. You rehearsed potential disappointments before they happened, braced for pain you hadn't encountered, and hesitated to pursue opportunities because you feared what you could not control. This fear shaped your choices more than you realized. It made you settle in places that limited you. It made you silence desires that were meant to guide you. It made you cling to familiarity even when your spirit longed for change. But now, everything is shifting. You are stepping into a version of yourself that interprets the unknown differently. Instead of seeing uncertainty as a threat, you will begin to see it as a place where possibility lives. The hesitation that once controlled your steps will give way to a quiet strength. You will recognize that you are not facing the unknown alone. You are stepping into it with guidance and support surrounding you. The unknown will no longer trigger spirals of anxiety because your trust will anchor you. You will sense my presence in the very places you once feared stepping into. Clarity will meet you as you move, not always in advance, but always in time. You will discover that what once intimidated you now inspires you. You will realize that the unknown is not darkness. It is simply a space waiting to be filled with what I have prepared for you. This freedom will change the way you dream, the way you plan, the way you speak, and the way you pursue your purpose. Fear will not disappear instantly, but it will lose its authority. You will move forward with confidence rooted not in certainty about the future, but in certainty about your guidance through it. This transformation begins now, and as it deepens, you will feel yourself walking into the unknown with courage instead of caution. There is a moment approaching that will shift your perspective in ways you could not have imagined, and I want you to hold this truth with reverence. Your faith is about to become sight. You have believed through seasons that offered no visible support for your hope. You held on to promises that seemed distant, trusting even when circumstances suggested that nothing was moving. You did not always feel strong, but you remained open, and that openness allowed your faith to survive. There were days when you felt foolish for hoping, days when you wondered if you misinterpreted the signs, days when the quiet felt like contradiction. Yet still, something within you refused to let go. That persistence was not accidental. It was preparation. You were being trained to recognize my movement before you could see it. Now, the time is approaching when what you believed internally will begin to manifest externally. You will witness outcomes that align with the prayers you whispered in private. You will see progress in areas where you once saw only setbacks. You will notice opportunities appear where you previously encountered closed doors. The alignment you have long waited for will begin to unfold in ways that feel both surprising and deeply familiar, as if your spirit always knew this moment would come. The shift will not feel chaotic. It will feel like confirmation. You will look at situations that once caused you pain and see purpose. You will look at delays that once frustrated you and see perfect timing. You will see connections forming, paths opening, and clarity rising, all of which reflect the faith you held on to during your most uncertain moments. This is not the end of your faith, it is the expansion of it. As things begin to unfold before your eyes, your trust will grow deeper rather than diminish. Your confidence will strengthen, not because everything becomes easy, but because you will see proof that your endurance was not in vain. You will recognize that the invisible work was happening all along. This is the season where the unseen becomes undeniable. Your faith is not only alive, it is about to become visible. There is a movement happening in your life right now, quiet but undeniable, because I am disrupting patterns that have trailed you for years, patterns that shaped your emotions, your relationships, and even your confidence without you realizing how deeply they influenced your choices. You have lived through cycles that felt familiar yet exhausting, returning again and again with different faces but the same internal impact. Patterns of overthinking, patterns of fear-based decisions, patterns of loving people who did not know how to love you back, patterns of shrinking yourself to maintain peace, patterns of doubting your worth the moment you tried to rise, patterns of feeling responsible for everyone else's emotions while neglecting your own. These cycles were not a reflection of your weakness. They were formed through years of survival, years of adapting to situations that demanded more of you than any heart should be expected to give. You learned behaviors that helped you cope but eventually restricted your growth. You accepted emotional habits that once protected you but later prevented you from stepping into confidence. These patterns became so intertwined with your identity that you sometimes questioned whether change was even possible. But hear me clearly, what has followed you for years is losing its power now. I am breaking emotional cycles that once dictated how you lived your life. I am severing the influence of past wounds that shaped your expectations. I am dismantling generational patterns that made you carry burdens that never belonged to you. As these cycles break, you will begin to notice subtle shifts. Your reactions will change, your boundaries will strengthen, your inner voice will become clearer. You will feel less drawn to situations that once tempted you into emotional exhaustion. You will no longer feel obligated to repeat behaviors that drained your spirit. Even your relationships will shift, because broken cycles make room for healthier connections. This transformation may feel strange at first, because breaking long-standing patterns often feels like stepping into unfamiliar territory, but unfamiliar does not mean unsafe. It means you are entering a new level of freedom. You will not live trapped in the loops that once governed your emotions. You will not revisit the same mistakes assuming they define your limits. You will not remain bound to what once shaped your past. You are stepping into freedom. Freedom from old fears, old choices, old emotional traps, and old expectations. This breaking is happening now, and as it unfolds, you will see yourself rising into a life that no longer mirrors the wounds of your past but reflects the healing of your present. There is something awakening inside you that is overturning the assumptions you once held about yourself, because you are rising from patterns you believed were permanent markers on your identity. And this rise is both intentional and necessary for the life forming ahead of you. For so long, you looked at certain behaviors, emotional reactions, or internal struggles and assumed they were simply part of who you were, fixed, unchangeable, and embedded into your personality. You told yourself, "This is just how I am," because you didn't know there was another way to live beyond those habits and responses. You accepted limitations that were never truly yours. You believed that your difficulty trusting others was a core trait rather than a wound. You believed that your tendency to retreat emotionally was your natural disposition rather than a protective instinct born from past hurts. You believed that self-doubt was an unalterable part of your personality, not recognizing it as a shadow created by years of being misunderstood or underestimated. These patterns wrapped themselves around your identity so tightly that you forgot how much of your true self remained untouched beneath them. But now those layers are loosening. You are rising, not through force, not through pressure, but through a deep internal shift that is revealing the real you beneath the survival patterns that once defined your behavior. You will begin to recognize strengths you didn't know existed. You will feel more comfortable speaking with clarity and showing up fully in spaces where you once felt small. You will notice confidence awakening in moments that once triggered insecurity. You will make decisions without apologizing for your desires. You will no longer carry the emotional weight of past versions of yourself. Rising does not mean denying what shaped you. It means refusing to let those things determine your future. The patterns that once influenced your identity will lose their authority. You will begin to see yourself through the lens of truth rather than habit. You will feel lighter, not because life becomes effortless, but because your spirit is no longer entangled in cycles that kept you limited. As this rising continues, you will step into a more aligned version of yourself, one who is grounded, aware, capable, and no longer defined by the emotional echoes of your history. This transformation is already underway, and your life will begin to reflect a strength and clarity you once believed you could never possess. There is a beauty forming in the parts of you that once felt like failures, a beauty emerging from the very places you tried to hide, because your weakness, the areas you once thought disqualified you, will become the testimony that reshapes not only your future but the lives of those connected to you. You spent years believing that certain struggles were shameful, that your moments of vulnerability made you less capable, less worthy, or less admirable. You tried to conceal your exhaustion, conceal your uncertainty, conceal the pain that softened your strength. You thought the parts of you that faltered were proof of inadequacy. Yet those very areas hold the deepest potential for transformation, compassion, and connection. Your weakness has not been a sign of failure. It has been the doorway through which humility, wisdom, empathy, and resilience have entered your life. You learned things in your lowest moments that strength alone could never have taught you. You discovered truths in your struggles that shaped your character in ways comfort never would have. And now, the very places you once avoided are becoming the foundations of your testimony. You will speak from experience rather than theory. You will comfort others with understanding rather than distance. You will inspire not by pretending to be flawless, but by acknowledging where you have been and how you have risen. Your wounds will not embarrass you. They will empower you. The areas where you once felt fragile will become spaces where your strength shines most clearly. Your testimony will not be a story of perfection. It will be a story of transformation. You will be able to look back and see how each weakness became an opportunity for growth, how each struggle developed a strength you now carry confidently, how each breaking point led to a breakthrough that reshaped your path. What once felt like the end of you will become the very thing others look at and find hope in. Your story is being written not around your strengths alone, but through the journey of how your weaknesses became stepping stones toward wisdom, compassion, and purpose. And as you move forward, you will see that the parts of you that once made you feel small are the same parts that will allow you to touch lives with authenticity and power. Your weakness will become your testimony, and your testimony will become your strength. There is a shift taking place around you that you have begun to feel, even if you cannot yet name it, because I am altering the atmosphere surrounding your life in ways that will transform how you experience every day from this point forward. You have lived under emotional climates that drained you, environments shaped by stress, pressure, discouragement, conflict, and invisible expectations. These atmospheres weighed on your spirit more than you realized. They influenced your energy, your thoughts, your hopes, and even your ability to see possibilities clearly. At times, the heaviness around you became so familiar that you stopped questioning it and assumed it was simply how life is. But it was never meant to stay that way. You endured seasons where the atmosphere felt thick with tension, as if every step required more effort than it should have. You walked into situations feeling drained before anything even happened. You woke up on days when peace felt distant and anxiety felt natural. This heaviness did not form overnight. It built over years of pushing through, carrying emotional weight alone, surviving rather than living. Yet now, I am reshaping the environment around your spirit, clearing away influences that once made life feel heavier than necessary. You may not see it with your eyes yet, but you will feel it. Moments of unexpected calm, moments when conversations flow without tension, moments when you breathe more deeply without realizing it. You will begin noticing you no longer carry the same internal resistance toward moving forward. Even the people around you will respond differently because the atmosphere around you is becoming lighter, clearer, calmer. Old emotional triggers will lose their intensity. Mental fog will lift. Discouragement will no longer feel like your default response. I am shifting the spiritual climate that surrounds your thoughts, interactions, and decisions. Opportunities will feel more accessible because your environment will no longer compete with your courage. You will walk into rooms without sensing the old pressures trailing behind you. You will feel aligned instead of overwhelmed. This change is not accidental. It is intentional and necessary for the chapter unfolding in your life. You cannot walk into new seasons carrying the atmosphere of old ones. As I clear the space around you, I am creating room for clarity, hope, creativity, and direction. You will sense support where you once felt strain. You will notice doors opening without the emotional resistance you used to battle. What once felt impossible will now feel within reach, not because your circumstances suddenly simplified, but because the atmosphere surrounding them changed. Trust what you are sensing. You are stepping into a lighter, freer environment, and it will reshape every part of your journey. There is a new clarity rising inside you, and I want you to understand the significance of what is happening. From this day forward, you will notice my guidance with a sharpness and ease that once felt unreachable. You have spent years trying to discern my voice in the midst of noise from your fears, from past experiences, from the opinions of others, from your own expectations, from anxiety that tangled itself around your thoughts. There were moments when you desperately wanted direction, but felt as though your prayers dissolved into silence. You questioned whether you were missing something, whether you were incapable of hearing me, or whether I had grown distant. Yet the difficulty you experienced was never due to my absence. It was due to the clutter and emotional exhaustion that overwhelmed your inner world. Now, as healing is spreading through the places within you that once felt chaotic, there is space for clarity to enter. You will begin to sense my guidance in ways that are subtle yet unmistakable, through peace that settles in your chest when a decision is right, through heaviness in your spirit when something is not aligned, through sudden insights that arrive without effort, through unexpected confirmation in conversations and moments where you least expect it. My voice will not appear as dramatic signs or overwhelming sensations. It will come through alignment, through the quiet knowing that no fear can imitate. You will notice that confusion begins to lose its grip. The internal tug-of-war you once battled will calm. You will no longer feel rushed or panicked when facing choices. Instead, you will feel guided, supported, and steadied. This clarity will not create arrogance. It will create peace. You will move with confidence even when you do not see the full picture, because the small confirmations along the way will reassure your spirit. You will recognize that my guidance has never been absent. It was simply overshadowed by the noise life pressed into you. Now, as the atmosphere around you shifts and your heart becomes lighter, your spiritual hearing becomes clearer. You will hear me in your instincts, in your intuition, in your peace, in moments of rest, in moments of stillness, and even in the unexpected. You will begin trusting the wisdom I place within you, rather than second-guessing every movement. You will no longer feel disconnected from direction. You will feel connected to it, consistently and naturally. This clarity will shape how you walk, how you decide, how you love, and how you lead. You will hear me, and you will recognize my tone. There is a quiet reconstruction happening inside you that you may not fully understand yet, but it is transforming you from the inside out, because I am rebuilding your hope brick by brick. Hope has been one of the most fragile parts of your heart, worn down by disappointments, delays, broken expectations, and seasons when life gave you more questions than answers. You learned to temper your hopes to avoid being hurt. You learned to lower your expectations so pain would feel less severe. You learned to silence your desires because the cost of dreaming felt too high. You adjusted your heart to survive rather than to believe. But hope was never meant to be a casualty in your life. It is meant to be a foundation, one that strengthens your spirit and opens your vision to possibility. The reason hope felt dangerous to you was not because hope is fragile, but because your heart was wounded in places where hope lived. Now, I am rebuilding that foundation, not through sudden leaps, but through steady restoration. Your hope will not return all at once, it will rise in layers. You will feel small moments of possibility returning. You will sense encouragement stirring in places that once felt empty. You will notice expectations forming where you once felt numb. This rebuilding might feel slow, but it is intentional. Brick by brick, I am restoring your ability to believe in goodness again, to look forward without fear, to expect without bracing for disappointment. As your hope strengthens, your perspective will shift. You will begin to approach life with curiosity instead of dread. You will find yourself imagining new possibilities instead of preparing for the worst. Hope will no longer be something you protect. It will be something you carry confidently. And because this new hope is built with greater depth and maturity, it will withstand pressures that once overwhelmed you. You will no longer let your past determine how much you allow yourself to believe. You will no longer silence your dreams out of fear of hurt. You will no longer assume that good things are temporary. This renewed hope will allow you to see your future with clarity, optimism, and courage. What once felt impossible will feel attainable. What once felt distant will feel within reach. What once felt too fragile to hold will become a strength you rely on daily. I am rebuilding your hope, not through fantasy, but through truth, healing, and alignment. And as this hope rises, you will discover a version of yourself ready to live fully again. There is a truth I want you to hold close, one that will challenge the heaviness you've carried regarding what you believe is permanently gone. Nothing you have lost is beyond my reach. You have mourned opportunities you feel slipped through your fingers, relationships that fractured without closure, seasons of life you believed you wasted, and dreams you thought were buried beneath years of disappointment. These losses have shaped how you see possibility. They taught you to expect less so your heart would not break again. You convinced yourself that certain doors were closed forever, not because you lacked faith, but because life taught you to move on quickly, to numb the ache, to swallow the regrets, to accept outcomes with no room left for hope. Yet loss is not the end of your story. It is often where transformation begins. What you've considered dead, I see as dormant. What you've labeled beyond recovery, I see as waiting for the right time to re-emerge in a healthier form. Nothing that belongs to your purpose is ever truly lost. It may shift. It may change form. It may return differently, but it has never gone beyond my ability to restore. You will begin noticing signs of reclamation in places you stopped expecting renewal, clarity returning to areas where confusion once lived, new relationships forming where old ones collapsed, opportunities resurfacing that align more closely with who you are now. Some things you lost will return directly. Others will return indirectly, through new paths that bring fulfillment in ways the old ones never could have. You will find redemption in places you thought were beyond repair. You will see me breathe life into what you once buried. And in this process, you will understand that I never allow loss to define the full shape of your story. I use it to carve depth, compassion, discernment, and maturity into you. Nothing you have surrendered in pain is wasted. Nothing you grieved in silence has gone unnoticed. Nothing you let go of is beyond my ability to restore in a form that blesses you more than the version you once clung to. As your heart opens again, you will witness recovery, renewal, and unexpected return. What felt stolen from you will be replaced with something stronger. What felt irreversibly broken will reveal purpose. And what you thought was gone forever will show you that my reach extends far beyond your imagination. Nothing you lost is out of my hands, not even the parts of you that you thought would never come alive again. There is a tension inside you that has lingered far too long, a quiet tightening in your chest that you've grown accustomed to, and today I address it with clarity. I am breaking the power fear has held over your life. Fear has shaped more decisions than you admit. It has whispered worst-case scenarios into your mind, causing you to brace yourself even when nothing was threatening you. It has slowed your progress, diluted your confidence, and influenced how you interpreted every unknown situation. Fear has convinced you that you must shrink to remain safe, that you must stay silent to avoid rejection, that you must settle to avoid disappointment. You started anticipating pain before it happened, cautioning yourself against dreaming too boldly, preparing your heart for outcomes that never even occurred. This internal vigilance exhausted you, and even in peaceful seasons, your mind remained on edge, waiting, watching, bracing. But fear has lost the authority it once held. I am dismantling the internal grip that made fear feel like your default setting. You will notice its influence weakening in subtle ways at first. Moments where you breathe more deeply without forcing it. Moments where you do not spiral at the thought of change. Moments where you choose courage before your mind warns you to retreat. Fear has trained your body to respond automatically, but I am retraining your spirit to move with confidence. You will begin sensing a new internal courage that surprises you, a quiet strength rising in spaces where fear once echoed loudly. Decisions that once terrified you will feel manageable. Conversations you avoided will feel natural. Opportunities you once rejected will now look inviting. And the fear that used to predict disaster will lose its credibility, because you will begin recognizing that its warnings were lies shaped by your past, not your future. Fear's grip is breaking because you have outgrown the version of yourself that believed fear was necessary for survival. You are stepping into a life where wisdom guides you, not panic, not instinctual retreat, not emotional overprotection. This does not mean you will never feel fear again. It means fear will no longer have the authority to direct your life. Its voice will grow faint. Its influence will fade. Its predictions will carry no weight. And you will experience a freedom that feels foreign at first, but deeply right. You are being released from fear, not into recklessness but into alignment, into clarity, into grounded confidence. Fear no longer gets to hold the pen of your story. You will move forward without its shadow dictating your steps. There is something unfolding around you, quietly, intricately, intentionally, and soon you will begin to see it with unmistakable clarity. You will recognize my hand in every detail of your life. For so long, you assumed you were navigating your journey alone, piecing together your decisions with limited understanding, trying to interpret circumstances through the lens of stress, survival, or urgency. You wondered if your life had direction, or if you were simply reacting to the chaos around you. But what you did not realize is that I have been weaving purpose through the ordinary moments, aligning each step in ways you could not perceive while standing in the middle of it. Every delay, every redirection, every unexpected shift has been part of a larger design, one that will soon come into focus. You will look back at certain situations and suddenly understand why they unfolded the way they did. The doors that closed will make sense when the right ones open. The relationships that ended will reveal their purpose when healthy ones enter. The seasons that frustrated you will show their significance when the growth they produced becomes vital for your next chapter. My hand has been present in subtle ways, through small nudges that guided your decisions, through moments of peace that interrupted anxiety, through unexpected protection that shielded you from harm you never knew was near. And now, as clarity rises, you will begin noticing how each detail has worked together, not by chance but by design. You will recognize alignment where you once saw randomness. You will recognize purpose where you once saw disappointment. You will recognize timing where you once saw delay. This awareness will not only bring understanding, it will strengthen your trust. You will move forward with confidence because you will see evidence of my involvement woven through your story. Even the parts of your life that once felt chaotic or meaningless will reveal their purpose. You will sense my presence in conversations, in opportunities, in decisions, in moments of rest, and even in challenges. Nothing will feel wasted. Nothing will feel random. Nothing will feel out of place. You are entering a season where the threads of your past, present, and future begin to connect, and the design of your journey will unfold with clarity that brings peace to your spirit. You will not wonder if I am with you. You will recognize my hand in every detail. There is a quiet but undeniable shift happening within you, one that signals the beginning of a deep internal alignment, because I am positioning your life to receive what has always been promised to you. You have carried certain desires for so long that they became woven into the deepest parts of your spirit, and even though circumstances often contradicted them, something inside you never fully let go. You questioned those longings at times, wondering if you misheard me, misread the signs, or misunderstood your own heart. You wondered whether your desires were rooted in truth or simply in hope shaped by disappointment. Yet what you carried was not delusion. It was evidence of the promises planted within you long before you recognized them. Even when you doubted, the promise remained alive beneath every layer of uncertainty. But a promise cannot manifest in a life that is out of alignment with its fulfillment, and that is why so many pieces of your journey have shifted recently. I have been repositioning you internally, adjusting your expectations, detaching you from what hindered you, healing old emotional wounds, strengthening your voice, clearing your atmosphere, rebuilding your hope, and teaching you to recognize my guidance with clarity. These shifts have not been random. They have been foundational. A promise is not simply something you receive. It is something your life must become calibrated to hold. You are being prepared to occupy spaces you once admired from afar. You are being aligned with relationships that reflect your growth instead of your trauma. You are being directed toward opportunities that match your capacity instead of your fear. You are stepping into a chapter where everything that once felt chaotic begins to feel guided. The promises I gave you are not fragile. They are not time-sensitive. They do not expire because of delays or detours. They mature as you mature. They unfold as you evolve. They manifest when your heart, your mindset, your habits, and your spirit have reached the stability required to sustain them. You will soon notice how seamlessly things begin to fit, how decisions feel clearer, how direction feels natural, how closed doors no longer sting, how open doors feel safe, how what once confused you begins to make perfect sense. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. You are being synchronized with every promise meant for your life, not partially, but fully. As you continue to trust the transformation happening within you, you will step into the fulfillment of those promises without striving, without begging, and without forcing anything. The alignment has already begun. Now it will become visible. Something inside you is stirring in ways you haven't felt for years, and I want you to recognize this sensation for what it truly is. Your spirit is awakening. For too long, you lived with a muted inner world, carrying emotional exhaustion that dulled your sense of possibility, your spiritual sensitivity, and your ability to feel connected to anything deeper than survival. You went through seasons where you felt disconnected from your own intuition, where the fire you once carried grew dim beneath the weight of disappointment, responsibility, and weariness. You didn't lose your spirit. You simply lost access to it. Pain has a way of shutting down the most vibrant parts of a person's soul, and life required so much of you that your spirit retreated into quietness to preserve what little strength you had left. But now, the layers that once suffocated your inner fire are dissolving. The numbness that once protected you is lifting. The heaviness that once occupied your heart is loosening. As clarity rises within you, the real you, the version of you that sees beyond fear, that discerns truth, that senses purpose, that feels deeply, that hopes boldly, is resurfacing. You will notice subtle shifts first, moments when your heart feels lighter for no obvious reason, moments when inspiration returns in unexpected ways, moments when you feel drawn to new possibilities, moments when you sense truth with greater accuracy, moments when you simply breathe differently. These sensations are the early signs of awakening. Your spirit is stepping forward after years of hiding behind emotional fatigue. This reawakening will transform the way you see yourself, the way you experience life, the way you interpret challenges, and the way you respond to the world around you. You will feel more alive in your daily routines. You will feel more present in conversations. You will feel more connected to meaning and purpose. You will regain the sensitivity to recognize subtle guidance, to discern what is good for you, and to walk confidently in truth rather than in fear. This awakening may feel unfamiliar at first, because you have grown accustomed to functioning in survival mode. But survival is no longer your identity. You are entering a life where your spirit leads your steps, not your wounds, not your fears, not your exhaustion. This reawakening is not temporary. It is a restoration of everything you thought you had lost. You will feel your inner world ignite with clarity, passion, creativity, compassion, direction, and strength. Your spirit is not only awakening, it is rising. There is a heaviness within you that has lingered longer than almost any other emotion, a subtle but persistent weight that has influenced how you see yourself, how you speak to yourself, and how you carry your past. And today I speak to it directly. I am lifting shame from your shoulders. Shame is not just an emotion. It is a shadow that convinces you there is something fundamentally wrong with you. It attaches itself to memories, mistakes, moments of weakness, and seasons where you were simply doing the best you could with the understanding you had. Over time, shame distorted the way you interpreted your life. It made you believe you were unworthy of love, of kindness, of forgiveness, of new beginnings. It made you hide parts of yourself because you feared judgment. It made you silent in situations where your voice was needed. It made you settle for less because you questioned your value. Shame inflated the significance of your failures while minimizing the truth of your growth. It silently influenced your choices by whispering that you were not enough. But shame has never spoken truth over your life. It has only spoken fear. And now, I remove its influence from your identity. You are not defined by what you regret. You are not defined by who hurt you. You are not defined by moments where you stumbled or seasons where you were lost. Shame kept you tethered to old versions of yourself that no longer exist. You deserve to move forward without dragging the weight of those memories behind you. As I lift shame from your shoulders, you will notice internal shifts. The heaviness that lingered after certain thoughts will begin to dissolve. The fear of judgment will weaken. The impulse to hide will soften, and your confidence will begin to root itself in truth rather than wounded self-perception. You will see your story with compassion instead of contempt. You will recognize your growth with clarity instead of minimizing it. You will understand that every step you took, even the messy ones, brought you to this moment of transformation. Shame has no rightful place in your identity. You have carried it long enough. Now your heart will learn how to exist without it. You will move freely, speak freely, love freely, hope freely, and dream freely, because you are no longer carrying the weight that once convinced you to shrink. I am lifting shame from your shoulders, and you will feel lighter than you ever have before. There is a deep internal shift unfolding within you, a quiet reconstruction that has been happening beneath the surface long before you ever recognized it, because your soul is entering a season of rebuilding that will reshape how you see yourself, how you navigate life, and how you interpret the world around you. You have endured seasons that left fractures in places you never spoke of, moments where your inner stability was shaken, where your confidence cracked, where disappointment carved out hollow spaces inside your heart. You learned to function with those fractures, adjusting your emotions around them, building routines on top of wounds that were never fully healed, carrying responsibilities with a soul that felt worn and stretched thin. Over time, these internal breaks became familiar, so familiar that you stopped noticing how deeply they affected you. You learned to live with low emotional energy, to survive instability, to navigate stress with a spirit that had little room to rest. But this next season of your life will not be built on old fractures. It will be built on a soul restored from the inside out. Rebuilding does not mean returning to who you were before pain touched your life. It means becoming someone stronger, steadier, and more aware of the truth of your own worth. You will begin noticing the reconstruction in places that once felt numb. Your capacity for joy, your ability to hope, your willingness to trust, your emotional resilience. What once felt draining will now feel manageable. What once felt overwhelming will now feel conquerable. You will sense strength filling places where weakness used to echo. You will feel stability returning to thoughts that once spiraled. You will notice that your soul responds differently to stress, rejecting old panic and embracing new calm. This rebuilding will not happen through effort. It will happen through alignment. I am restoring parts of you that were damaged by seasons you barely survived. I am reforging your identity where life cracked it. I am establishing peace in places where chaos once lived. You will not collapse under pressures that used to break you. You will not question yourself with the same fragility. You will not walk through life trying to protect yourself from everything at once. Your soul is being rebuilt with clarity, courage, and strength that cannot be shaken by what once wounded you. This season is not about recovering pieces. It is about reconstructing wholeness. There is a fatigue inside you that runs deeper than physical tiredness, a weariness that has touched your emotions, your thoughts, and even your sense of identity. And today I am calling you out of emotional exhaustion. You have spent years pouring out more than your heart had the capacity to give. You carrying burdens for others because you felt responsible for their well-being. You tried to maintain peace in situations that demanded too much from your spirit. You placed pressure on yourself to stay strong regardless of how drained you felt. You faced decisions, problems, and uncertainties without the support you truly needed. And in all this, you convinced yourself you were simply tired, not realizing your soul had been stretched beyond its limit. Emotional exhaustion is not just weariness. It is the silent draining of your inner reserves. It makes you feel disconnected from joy, detached from hope, and overwhelmed by even small tasks. It makes your heart feel heavy for reasons you cannot explain. It causes your mind to drift into overthinking because it is too tired to focus on truth. It makes you question your worth, your abilities, and your purpose. But I did not design you to live in permanent depletion. I am calling you out of the cycle that made you feel responsible for everything, out of the habits that forced you to suppress your needs, out of the environments that demanded emotional labor without giving nourishment in return. You will begin noticing internal relief as this call takes effect. Your thoughts will feel lighter. Your emotions will feel less volatile. The heaviness sitting on your chest will begin to lift. You will awaken with more clarity instead of dread. You will breathe without the tension you've grown accustomed to carrying. Emotional exhaustion will no longer define your daily existence. I am restoring the energy you lost through years of giving without receiving, caring without boundaries, and surviving without rest. You will no longer feel guilty for needing space, for taking time, for protecting your heart. Rest will no longer feel like weakness. It will feel like alignment. As this exhaustion breaks off your life, you will feel your spirit rise again with a clarity and strength you forgot you possessed. You are leaving survival behind. You are entering renewal. There is a tension you have felt for years, a tug of war between the desires in your heart and the reality of your circumstances, and I want you to understand what this tension truly means. Your desires are being refined, not denied. You have carried certain longings that felt so deeply embedded within you that you questioned whether they were part of your purpose or simply hope shaped by longing. You prayed for clarity, wanting to know whether these desires were aligned with your path or distractions leading you astray. When delays occurred, you wondered if you were being told no, and when progress stalled, you questioned whether you should surrender entirely. These emotional battles left you confused, torn between holding on and letting go. But the delays were never rejections. They were refining fires shaping your desires into something stronger and purer. Refinement happens when a desire is stripped from fear, insecurity, ego, and confusion, leaving behind only what is truly aligned with your purpose. You will begin noticing this refinement in the way your desires feel different now, not weaker, but clearer. The immaturity that once influenced your ambitions has dissolved. The fear that once shaped your choices has loosened its grip. The emotional neediness that once drove your longing has quieted. What remains is the true essence of what you were meant to seek. Some desires will deepen, revealing themselves as part of your calling. Others will fade, not because they were wrong, but because you have outgrown the version of yourself that birthed them. You will feel this refinement in your intuition, a sharpness, a clarity, a calm certainty about what deserves your energy. Your desires will no longer feel scattered or frantic. They will feel aligned, intentional, and rooted in truth. And once a desire is refined, it becomes ready to manifest. Nothing aligned with your purpose has been denied. Nothing meant for your life has been taken away. The refining was never a punishment. It was preparation. Your desires are becoming clearer than ever, and soon you will step into the very things you once questioned. There is a courage forming inside you that you may not fully recognize yet, but it is rising with intention, because I am teaching you how to stand without fear shaping your posture or controlling your decisions. You have spent much of your life navigating uncertainty with hesitancy, stepping carefully because you were afraid that one wrong move could collapse everything you worked for. Your body learned to tighten before conflict. Your mind learned to anticipate disappointment, and your heart learned to brace for rejection long before it arrived. These habits were not flaws. They were survival patterns created during seasons when you had no one to protect you, when you felt emotionally exposed, and when vulnerability came with a cost you did not know how to pay. But the survivalist stance that once kept you safe is now keeping you small. And I am shifting your internal posture so you learn how to stand from a place of confidence rather than caution. You will begin noticing this transformation in the way you respond to situations that once intimidated you. Conversations you used to avoid will become opportunities for clarity. Decisions that once felt overwhelming will feel manageable. Instead of shrinking back, you will feel grounded. Instead of anticipating failure, you will anticipate possibility. This new strength will not come through force. It will come through alignment. I am strengthening your inner world so fear no longer determines your reactions. Your shoulders will loosen because you no longer carry the weight of imagined catastrophes. Your breathing will deepen because your nervous system will no longer stay locked in defense. Your mind will quiet because it will no longer assign danger to every unknown. I am teaching you to stand without fear, not because danger disappears, but because your resilience, clarity, and trust will rise higher than your anxiety. Fear once governed the way you approached life. Now you will govern your fear. This change will be subtle but profound. Less overthinking, fewer internal apologies, more calm confidence, and a steady assurance that you are safe, supported, and guided. You are learning to stand differently, not as someone preparing for the worst, but as someone aligned with strength you didn't know you possessed. Something inside you has been sensing it. An internal shift, a quiet readiness, a new clarity, and this feeling is not random, because you are being prepared for what you prayed for. You brought me dreams that felt too big for your current circumstances, requests that felt impossible given your resources, and longings that felt almost unrealistic after everything you endured. Even when you prayed, part of you wondered whether those desires could ever truly be fulfilled. What you didn't realize is that I was already shaping you for the very things you were asking for. Some answers required you to grow emotionally so you wouldn't sabotage what arrived. Some blessings demanded a clearer identity so you would not shrink when opportunity came. Some breakthroughs needed you to release old patterns so they could be sustained once they manifested. Your prayers were never ignored. They were being prepared. And now that your inner world has been shifting, maturing, and healing, you will begin to understand why certain seasons took longer than you expected. You were not waiting for the blessing. The blessing was waiting for you to become the person who could carry it without fear, without self-doubt, without settling, without reverting to old habits. You will begin noticing moments of alignment, thoughts that suddenly make sense, doors that open effortlessly, connections that feel intentional, opportunities that resonate deeply. These are not coincidences. They are signals that the things you prayed for are drawing closer, not abstractly, but tangibly. Preparation is never punishment, it is protection. It ensures that what comes does not overwhelm you, distort you, or slip through your fingers because you didn't yet have the internal foundation to hold it. You will recognize this preparation in your newfound clarity, restored confidence, healthier boundaries, deeper self-respect, and ability to discern what aligns with your purpose. You are not being stretched for no reason. You are being shaped into someone capable of receiving the realities you once only dared to imagine in prayer. The answers you longed for are not distant. They are already forming, and your preparation is the sign that they are near. There is a profound shift taking place inside you, a transformation so deep that it is rewiring how you think, feel, hope, choose, and dream. And I want you to understand something clearly. You will not return to the person you were before this transformation began. That former version of you, the one shaped by fear, self-doubt, emotional exhaustion, overthinking, people-pleasing, shame, and survival, served a purpose in seasons when you needed resilience just to make it through another day. You did the best you could with the tools you had, and that former version of you carried burdens that would have crushed many others. But now that you are stepping into healing, clarity, and renewal, there is no return to the emotional patterns you once normalized. Transformation has altered your internal structure. Your spirit has awakened. Your mind is clearer. Your emotional thresholds have changed. You no longer interpret life through the lens of your past wounds. You no longer internalize fear as truth. You no longer shrink when confronted with uncertainty. You no longer tolerate environments that drain your energy or relationships that diminish your value. You no longer silence your voice to maintain peace that wasn't actually peace. You no longer ignore your intuition to satisfy others' expectations. This transformation is not temporary. It is foundational. You will recognize its permanence in the way you carry yourself. More anchored, more aware, more grounded, more intentional. You will sense it in your decisions. No more choosing from fear, only choosing from alignment. You will see it in your relationships. No more settling for emotional crumbs when you are worthy of genuine connection. You will feel it in your spirit, a sense of steadiness that cannot be shaken by circumstances that once overwhelmed you. You are not returning to the emotional fragility of your past because the internal landscape of your life has changed. You are evolving into someone your past self never believed you could become. This transformation is not something you will lose. It is something you will grow into. You have crossed a threshold, and the life ahead of you will reflect the strength, wisdom, and clarity formed in this sacred season of becoming. There is a mental heaviness you have carried for far too long, a quiet storm of mixed thoughts, conflicting emotions, and unanswered questions that has left you feeling unsure of your next steps. And now I speak into that chaos with clarity. I am untangling the confusion within you. You have tried to make sense of situations that were never meant to be figured out through overthinking. You have tried to interpret signs through the lens of fear instead of truth. You have wrestled with decisions alone because you believed your uncertainty was a sign of weakness rather than a signal that you were being prepared for deeper clarity. Over time, these tangled thoughts created an internal fog that made even simple choices feel complex. You began questioning your intuition, doubting your discernment, and worrying that every step you took might be the wrong one. This confusion was not born from a lack of wisdom. It came from emotional overload, from trying to protect yourself from disappointment, from carrying responsibilities that were not yours to carry, and from attempting to navigate seasons without the spiritual rest your soul desperately needed. But now, clarity is rising inside you like dawn breaking over a long night. I am sorting through the thoughts that have competed for your attention, separating truth from fear, direction from distraction, and intuition from anxiety. You will start to notice this shift gradually. The mental noise will begin to quiet. The overwhelming options will narrow into clear pathways, and the internal pressure to figure everything out at once will dissolve. What once felt tangled will begin to feel linear. What once felt confusing will begin to make sense. You will recognize which desires come from your spirit and which come from old wounds. You will feel guided instead of lost. You will feel grounded instead of scattered. Confusion has no authority over your next chapter. I am bringing order to your inner world so you can move forward with confidence rather than hesitation. Trust the clarity that is coming. You are stepping out of mental chaos and into spiritual understanding. There is a loneliness inside you that you learn to carry quietly, a subtle ache beneath your strength, shaped by seasons where you felt unseen, unsupported, or emotionally alone even while surrounded by others. And today I reveal something important. I am preparing people who will walk with you in ways you have never experienced before. You have been the strong one more times than you can count. The one who listened, the one who held others up, the one who provided stability when everyone else felt unsteady. Yet when your heart needed understanding, when your spirit needed encouragement, when your emotions needed a safe place to rest, you often found yourself with no one who could meet you at that depth. This created a quiet emptiness inside you, making you feel misunderstood, disconnected, or even invisible at times. You began believing that no one could truly walk with you, not because you are hard to love, but because the people around you lacked the capacity to meet you where your soul lives. But that season is ending. I am bringing people into your life who carry maturity, empathy, loyalty, and emotional depth. People who will not only receive from you but pour into you. You are entering a chapter where reciprocity replaces imbalance. These individuals will understand you without needing long explanations. They will support you without being asked. They will bring clarity instead of confusion. They will speak truth where others only offered surface-level comfort. And they will walk beside you with steadiness that reflects their own healing and alignment. These connections will not be forced. They will arrive naturally, woven into your life through alignment rather than effort. You will recognize them by the peace you feel around them, by the honesty that flows easily, by the safety in their presence, and by the way your soul exhales without fear of judgment or misunderstanding. You are not meant to walk alone. Companionship, partnership, and community are being prepared for you, not in the shallow ways you've experienced before, but in deep, meaningful, life-giving ways that strengthen your heart and support your purpose. Trust that what is coming will exceed what you lost. There is a profound shift happening in the way you see your future, and I want you to understand the magnitude of what this means. You are stepping into the life you once feared to imagine. For so long, your dreams felt too fragile to hold, too unrealistic to pursue, or too risky to speak out loud. You buried certain desires because disappointment taught you to protect your heart. You avoided envisioning a meaningful future because you assumed life would only give you pieces, not fullness. You lowered your expectations, not because you lacked ambition, but because you grew tired of hoping without seeing results. You convinced yourself that small dreams were safer than bold ones, that survival was more attainable than fulfillment, and that contentment was more practical than joy. But as healing has taken root in you, something deeper has begun to awaken. You are rediscovering the part of yourself that knows you were created for more than endurance. Your spirit is remembering dreams that once felt impossible. You are beginning to imagine a future with more abundance, more purpose, more love, more peace, and more freedom. These visions are not fantasies. They are glimpses of alignment. You are stepping into a life where fear no longer dictates what you believe is possible. You will notice that the future doesn't intimidate you the way it once did. Instead of bracing for disappointment, you will expect growth. Instead of limiting your desires, you will expand them. Instead of shrinking around uncertainty, you will step into it with confidence. The life you feared to imagine is the life you are now being prepared to live, one shaped by clarity, strength, emotional stability, spiritual alignment, and opportunities that affirm your worth. You will not sabotage it. You will not shrink from it. You will not run from it. You will grow into it with the courage your past seasons developed within you. The future that once scared you is becoming the future you are ready to claim. Something significant is drawing near, and I want your heart to be ready for it, because I am giving you courage for the doors that are about to open in your life. Doors you once feared, doors you once doubted you were worthy to walk through, doors that will shift the direction of your future in ways you cannot fully imagine yet. For years, opportunities came and went, and although part of you longed to step into them, another part hesitated. You feared being unprepared. You feared being seen. You feared stepping into spaces where your insecurities might surface, your vulnerabilities might show, or your confidence might falter under pressure. You convinced yourself that certain doors were meant for other people, not realizing that your hesitation was rooted not in inadequacy but in wounds that taught you to underestimate your capability. But now those fears are losing their influence. The healing happening inside you is making room for courage. Courage not built on perfection, but on truth. You will begin noticing this courage in the way your spirit responds to opportunities that once intimidated you. Instead of retreating, you will feel drawn forward. Instead of doubting yourself, you will sense possibility. Instead of shrinking, you will stand with steadiness that comes from alignment rather than self-effort. The doors opening before you will not be coincidences. They are divine appointments, Time precisely for the version of you emerging in this season. You will not feel overwhelmed by them. You will not sabotage them. You will not run from them. I am giving you the inner strength to walk through these doors with clarity, humility, and confidence. These openings may challenge you, stretch you, or ask you to step outside your comfort zone, but they will not break you. They will build you. Every step you take into these new spaces will reveal how much you have grown, how much you have healed, and how ready you truly are. The courage being formed in you is not temporary. It is becoming a defining part of who you are. When the doors open, you will walk through them without fear because you will know you are stepping into what was always meant for you. A new level of direction is settling into your life, even if you cannot fully articulate it yet, because I am guiding your next steps with precision, far beyond what you could discern on your own. In the past, you made decisions out of urgency, uncertainty, or emotional pressure. You tried to choose wisely, but the weight of not knowing what would happen next often left you anxious, second-guessing yourself, or stuck between options that all felt unclear. You feared making the wrong choice, feared disappointing others, feared losing opportunities, or feared stepping into situations without the clarity you desperately needed. These fears made every decision feel heavier than it actually needed to be. But now, you are entering a season where the path before you will unfold with a degree of clarity you have rarely experienced. I am not giving you the entire map at once. I am giving you step-by-step guidance that will become evident exactly when you need it. You will begin noticing subtle but unmistakable signals, doors that open easily while others close without explanation, peace that settles on one direction while restlessness follows another, conversations that confirm what your spirit already sensed, and opportunities that align with your growth rather than your old fears. This guidance will not be loud or dramatic. It will be consistent, steady, and unmistakably grounded in truth. You will not feel the chaos of uncertainty you once felt. Instead, your decisions will come with a sense of rightness, an inner knowing that cannot be forced or fabricated. You will start moving forward without the emotional friction that once overwhelmed you. Even when you do not see the full picture, you will trust the step in front of you because you will sense my presence guiding your thoughts, timing, and direction. You will not walk blindly. You will walk intentionally, guided by wisdom shaped through healing, clarity, and alignment. The precision of this guidance will protect you from wrong paths, prepare you for the right ones, and position you exactly where you need to be at the exact moment you need to be there. Every step forward is being orchestrated with purpose. There is a sharpening happening inside you, quiet but profound, because I am strengthening your discernment for the journey ahead, ensuring that you can navigate what comes next with confidence and clarity. In the past, your discernment was often clouded by emotional exhaustion, fear, pressure, or the desire to avoid conflict. You struggled to separate instinct from anxiety, truth from trauma, intuition from insecurity. You questioned your own judgment, not because you lacked wisdom, but because pain distorted your inner signals and cluttered your spiritual awareness. You trusted the wrong people at times because your heart longed for connection. You rejected good things at times because old wounds made them feel threatening. You hesitated to trust yourself because your inner world felt too tangled to guide you. But that is changing now. As healing has taken root in you, your discernment is awakening with new clarity. You will feel this sharpening in practical ways. You will sense when someone's intentions do not align with their words. You will recognize when an opportunity is meant for you versus when it is simply a distraction. You will detect emotional manipulation before it influences you. And you will notice immediately when a situation carries peace or when it carries warning. Your inner compass is becoming more accurate, more grounded, and more trustworthy. This discernment is not about suspicion. It is about wisdom. It is about protecting your spirit from unnecessary pain. It is about guiding you into relationships that reflect your growth. It is about helping you recognize divine timing instead of forcing outcomes prematurely. You will not be confused the way you once were. You will not be easily pulled into situations that drain you or people who disguise their intentions. You will move with clarity, not caution rooted in fear. This discernment will make you stronger, safer, and more aligned with your purpose. You are being prepared to navigate your future with eyes that see clearly and a heart that knows truth. There's a quiet but undeniable shift developing in the deepest part of your identity, and it is time you understand what this means, because I am transforming the way you see yourself in a way that will impact every relationship, every decision, and every dream connected to your future. For much of your life, you viewed yourself through lenses shaped by old wounds, subtle criticisms, disappointments, and environments that did not honor your worth. You internalized the words of people who didn't understand you. You believed the narratives created by those who projected their brokenness onto you. You allowed the past to define your limitations, not realizing that your potential stretched far beyond the circumstances you were born into or the experiences you survived. At times, you saw yourself as too much, and at other times, not enough. You underestimated your significance. You apologized for your presence. You shrank to accommodate others. You dismissed your gifts because you didn't realize they were gifts. But all of that is shifting now. I am revealing the truth of who you are with a clarity that will dismantle every false belief you carried. You will begin to notice this transformation in the way you speak to yourself. Gentler, more grounded, more aligned with truth. You will stop interpreting your reflection through fear or insecurity. You will stop questioning whether your value is conditional. You will no longer diminish yourself to maintain relationships that weren't meant to hold the fullness of who you're becoming. Your voice will strengthen because you will no longer silence it to avoid conflict. Your boundaries will solidify because you finally recognize your worth. Your confidence will rise, not from pride, but from spiritual clarity. The more you see yourself accurately, the more you will choose relationships, opportunities, and environments that reflect that truth. You are not stepping into arrogance. You are stepping into identity. You are not becoming someone new. You are shedding everything that kept you from recognizing who you have always been. This transformation will influence how you walk, how you love, how you hope, how you trust, and how you show up. And once you see yourself through truth, you will never again settle for roles, titles, or expectations that require you to shrink. You are becoming aligned with your real self, and that transformation changes everything. There is a path before you that once filled you with hesitation, a direction you sensed but never fully embraced because of uncertainty, fear, or the belief that you were not equipped for it. And now I tell you with intention, I am clearing the very path you once feared to walk. You stood at the threshold of this path many times before, feeling its pull yet turning away because the unknown felt too overwhelming. Old wounds whispered caution. Past failures urged you to play small. Confusing signs made you doubt your perception. You worried about choosing incorrectly, about losing stability, about stepping into territory where your strength might be tested beyond what you thought you could bear. But what you didn't realize is that the obstacles you feared weren't permanent. They were simply markers of a path that needed to mature with you. Certain opportunities couldn't open until you heal. Certain steps couldn't be taken until you released attachments that no longer serve you. Certain direction couldn't become clear until your discernment sharpened. Now, as your spirit strengthens and your clarity grows, the path that once intimidated you is becoming visibly navigable. Obstacles are moving. Fog is lifting. Resistance is collapsing. You will not walk into confusion. You will walk into guidance. You will not face the same emotional barriers as before. They have already begun dissolving. You will not carry the same fear you once carried. You have outgrown it. The path ahead will still require courage, but it will not require the kind of battle you endured in past seasons. You will feel a supernatural ease in areas where you once struggled. You will notice resources appearing precisely when needed. You will meet people who guide, support, and affirm your direction. You will sense a certainty that was absent before, not because circumstances are perfect, but because your alignment makes the way clear. This path is not random. It is purposeful, prepared, and protected. You are not stepping into the unknown. You are stepping into tiding. And as you continue moving forward, you will understand why every delay, confusion, and hesitation in the past was part of making this path safe for you. You are walking into alignment, not fear. There is a resilience awakening inside you that has been quietly rebuilding through each moment of healing, every shift in your mindset, and every layer of emotional release, because I am restoring your emotional strength in ways that will surprise even you. For years, you have carried more weight than the people around you understood. You weathered storms with a brave face, even while your inner world trembled. You endured emotional burdens that drained you profoundly, yet you kept moving because you felt you had no choice. You learned to suppress your own needs because supporting others became an unspoken responsibility. You pushed yourself beyond exhaustion, believing you had to remain strong even when your inner reserves were running dangerously low. These experiences depleted you, leaving you vulnerable to doubt, fear, and emotional collapse. But emotional strength is not built through avoidance. It is built through healing, rest, clarity, and self-awareness. And that restoration is happening now. You will begin noticing your resilience returning in ways that do not feel forced or performative. Your reactions will slow down, giving you space to process instead of panic. Your emotions will feel less overwhelming because the heaviness behind them is dissolving. You will regain the capacity to handle challenges without feeling like you might break. You will feel grounded in moments that once triggered spirals. You will navigate relationships with confidence instead of emotional fatigue. Even your self-talk will shift, becoming kinder, more patient, more truthful. The strength forming inside you is not the old strength, the one built on survival, suppression, and self-neglect. This is new strength, rooted in emotional clarity, healthy boundaries, and spiritual alignment. You will no longer confuse resilience with self-sacrifice. You will no longer push yourself to the point of depletion. You will no longer carry responsibilities that are not yours. You will feel empowered rather than burdened, steady rather than overwhelmed. This restoration will influence everything: how you respond to adversity, how you show up for yourself, how you protect your peace, and how you give your energy to the world. You are entering a season where emotional strength will no longer be something you fight for. It will be something that flows naturally from the healed and aligned version of you now emerging. There is a tenderness awakening within you that you may not fully understand yet, and this gentle stirring is happening for a reason, because I am healing the parts of you that you forgot even needed healing. Areas buried so deeply beneath responsibilities, survival instincts, and years of emotional pressure that you no longer recognized how much pain lived there. You learned to function with these wounds by hiding them beneath strength, productivity, and silence, convincing yourself that if you just kept moving, the ache would eventually dissolve on its own. But unspoken pain does not disappear. It settles into the corners of your heart, shaping how you interpret life, how you love, how you respond, and how you carry yourself in moments you assume no one can see. Some of your deepest wounds were formed not through dramatic moments, but through long seasons of being unseen, misunderstood, undervalued, or taken for granted. Other wounds were born in moments when you needed gentleness but received harshness, or needed guidance but received criticism, or needed comfort but received distance. Over time, these experiences created subtle imbalances inside you, affecting your confidence, reshaping your expectations, and altering the way you trusted yourself and others. You became so accustomed to carrying these invisible injuries that you no longer noticed how heavy they were. But I noticed. I saw the moments when you pushed through discomfort with a smile. I saw the emotional knots you couldn't untangle alone. I saw the memories that lived in you like echoes of past seasons, influencing you even when you believed they were forgotten. And now, with deliberate intention, I am bringing healing to the hidden places, those quiet, sensitive spots that never had the space or safety to be acknowledged. You will begin noticing this healing in small, almost imperceptible ways at first. Moments when your heart softens in situations that once triggered defensiveness. Moments when your emotions feel steadier even without outward change. Moments when your reactions are grounded rather than reactive. Moments when old fears rise but no longer control you. Moments when you feel comforted in ways you cannot explain logically. Healing will touch layers you didn't know were connected. Your trust, your rest, your sense of belonging, your self-worth. Your ability to receive love without questioning it, your capacity to hope without bracing for disappointment. This healing is not sudden. It is gentle, intentional, and deep, reaching places within you that have been closed for years. You will feel pieces of yourself returning that you thought were lost forever. Your softness, your courage, your imagination, your ability to believe in goodness, your capacity to experience joy without tension beneath it. This is not surface restoration. This is inner reconstruction. And as this healing continues, you will feel lighter, more open, more present, and more connected to the truth of who you are. You are not just recovering. You are becoming whole in ways you never allowed yourself to imagine. There is a strength rising inside you that feels both familiar and new, and I want you to recognize what is happening within you, because I am restoring the confidence you thought you lost. Confidence buried under years of setbacks, doubts, self-criticism, and the quiet belief that you had somehow fallen behind in life. You didn't lose your confidence because you were weak. You lost it because life demanded so much from you for so long that you had no space left to nurture the parts of yourself that once stood bold, clear, and unshaken. Every time you were misunderstood, every time you were overlooked, every time you were told to be smaller or quieter, every time you questioned your own worth, the flame inside you dimmed little by little. And eventually, you began to believe that the diminished fire inside you meant something was wrong with who you were. You doubted your instincts, second-guessed your decisions, apologized for being yourself, and held back in conversations where your voice was needed. You underestimated your potential because past experiences trained you to anticipate disappointment before possibility. But that era of diminished confidence is ending. I am restoring your inner boldness, not the loud, forceful kind, but the steady, grounded assurance that knows who you are and does not shrink in the presence of challenge or expectation. You will begin noticing subtle shifts in your daily life. You will speak with more clarity. You will trust your intuition without fear of being wrong. You will take actions you once hesitated to take. You will see opportunities where you once saw obstacles, and you will believe in your abilities without waiting for someone else to validate them. This restored confidence will feel different from the confidence you had years ago. It will be built upon truth, healing, discernment, and maturity. It will not be shaken by others' opinions or your own occasional moments of doubt. You will feel grounded rather than anxious, steady rather than reactive, courageous rather than hesitant. And as this confidence grows, you will recognize how deeply your identity was never damaged, only hidden beneath the weight of unprocessed pain and past experiences. The clarity rising within you is not temporary. It is the unveiling of the strength you always carried. You will no longer question whether you are capable. You will know. You will no longer search for reassurance. You will become your own confirmation. You will no longer depend on external approval to feel worthy. You will walk in the truth that your worth was never negotiable. I am restoring your confidence not to return you to who you used to be, but to reveal the refined, wiser, stronger version of you that could only emerge through every season you endured. That confidence is returning now, steady, quiet, and unshakable. There is a delicate part of your heart that has remained guarded for far longer than you ever intended, and today I want to speak directly to that guardedness, because I am rebuilding your ability to trust again, not with naive openness, not with forced optimism, but with a healed heart that knows the difference between discernment and fear. You did not become guarded overnight. You learned to protect yourself because you were betrayed in seasons when you were vulnerable. You were disappointed by people who should have cared for your heart with more intentionality. You were let down by promises that were spoken carelessly. You were judged for wounds you never asked for and criticized for emotions that were honest but misunderstood. Over time, these experiences taught you to be cautious with your love, careful with your truth, selective with your vulnerability, and hesitant with your hope. You told yourself it was wisdom, but deep down, you knew it was self-protection born from pain you never fully had space to process. Yet you were not created to live with a shield around your heart forever. Trust is not weakness. It is the foundation of every meaningful connection your future requires. And I am rebuilding that foundation within you one layer at a time. This healing will not erase your discernment. It will sharpen it. It will not push you into reckless openness. It will teach you how to recognize safe people without projecting old wounds onto them. You will begin noticing a softening within yourself. Conversations will feel less threatening, relationships will feel less risky, and vulnerability will feel less like exposure and more like connection. People who are aligned with your growth will enter your life gently, without demand or pressure, allowing your heart to open at a pace that honors your healing. I am not restoring blind trust. I am restoring healthy trust. You will learn to distinguish between intuition and fear, between genuine connection and emotional temptation, between familiar wounds and authentic love. You will no longer mistrust kindness, nor will you ignore red flags. Your heart will grow wiser, not colder. Stronger, not harder. Open, not exposed. And as this trust rebuilds, you will discover how deeply you were created to experience connection, partnership, friendship, intimacy, and belonging in ways you once feared were impossible for you. Trust will no longer feel like a risk. It will feel like alignment. It will not feel like losing control. It will feel like receiving what you deserve. This rebuilding is already unfolding, and as it continues, your heart will step into relationships with confidence, clarity, and peace you never thought you would feel again. There is a stirring within you that feels unfamiliar yet undeniably real, and I want you to understand what is happening inside your spirit, because I am awakening strengths within you that have been asleep, strengths buried beneath years of survival, seasons of emotional heaviness, and moments when you didn't believe you had anything left to offer. These strengths were never lost. They were simply dormant, waiting for the right season to arise, the right clarity to develop, the right healing to settle, and the right maturity to hold them responsibly. There were times when you felt weak, but your weakness was not a sign of inability. It was a sign that certain parts of you had not yet been activated. Life demanded endurance from you, but endurance is not the same as strength. You learned to push through, but pushing through is not the same as rising. You learned to adapt, but adapting is not the same as stepping into your full capacity. Now, as your healing deepens and your clarity becomes sharper, dormant strengths are beginning to surface. Strengths of resilience, leadership, creativity, wisdom, discernment, compassion, and courage that were overshadowed by the wounds you carried. You will begin to notice these strengths appearing in unexpected moments. You will speak with a depth that surprises even you. You will make decisions with a certainty you did not possess in previous seasons. You will feel bolder, not because circumstances are easier, but because your spirit is stronger. You will approach challenges with calm authority rather than anxiety-driven reactions. You will find yourself stepping into roles, opportunities, and conversations that once intimidated you, but now feel aligned with your growth. These strengths are awakening gradually, in layers, so you are never overwhelmed by them, but empowered through them. And as they awaken, they will call out parts of your identity that you never fully explored. Your potential, your voice, your insight, your presence, your ability to influence, your capacity to heal others through the empathy you gain from your own battles. These strengths will not inflate your ego. They will anchor your purpose. They will not create pride. They will create stability. They will not pull you into striving. They will guide you into alignment. This awakening is not temporary. It is the beginning of a new dimension of who you are. The world will experience a version of you shaped not by trauma or scarcity, but by truth, wisdom, and divine refinement. You are not just growing. You are activating. You are not just healing. You are emerging. Every strength awakening within you is proof that you are stepping into a season where nothing inside you remains hidden, silenced, or forgotten. Everything you were created to carry is rising. There is a clarity beginning to form inside you, a quiet recognition that the timing of your life has not been random. And I want to speak to that realization now, because I am revealing the purpose behind your delays that once frustrated you, confused you, and caused you to question whether you had somehow missed your moment. You spent seasons waiting for answers that never came as quickly as you hoped. You prayed for breakthroughs that seemed endlessly out of reach. You watched others move forward while you felt stuck in patterns, cycles, or circumstances you desperately wanted to escape. You wondered if the silence meant denial, or worse, abandonment. But what you interpreted as stagnation was actually preparation. The delays were not punishments, they were protections. They shielded you from opportunities you weren't yet prepared for, relationships that would have drained you, responsibilities you weren't emotionally ready to carry, and decisions that required the wisdom you only developed through time and growth. You were not waiting for the blessing. The blessing was waiting for you to mature into the person who could receive it without losing yourself in the process. These delays taught you patience, discernment, resilience, emotional depth, spiritual insight, and the ability to walk with clarity rather than fear. They shaped your identity in ways instant answers never could. They refined your desires, stripping away what was superficial and leaving only what was authentic and aligned with your purpose. And now, as your inner world aligns with truth, I am revealing why certain seasons stretched longer than you expected. You needed time to heal wounds that would have sabotaged your progress. You needed experiences that strengthen your character. You needed lessons that deepen your understanding. You needed space to outgrow environments that no longer fit who you are becoming. Every delay carried purpose, even when you couldn't see it. You will soon look back and recognize that what felt like waiting was actually shaping. You will see how perfectly things align now that you are ready. You will notice how opportunities begin to appear at the exact moment your spirit feels steady enough to hold them. You will understand why certain doors opened later, because earlier, they would have overwhelmed you or misdirected you. These delays were divine strategy, not divine silence. And now that the timing is turning in your favor, You will step into what once felt distant with confidence, gratitude, and a depth of understanding that ensures you will not waste what took so long to arrive. There is a sacred shift unfolding around you right now, quiet, steady, unmistakable, and I want you to feel the weight of what is happening because I am leading you into the fulfillment of everything I have spoken over your life. You have carried my words in your heart through valleys, deserts, storms, and long seasons of silence. You held on to promises that didn't seem to match your circumstances. You clung to hope even when your surroundings gave you no visible reason to keep believing. You endured moments where the gap between what I told you and what you were living felt painfully wide. You questioned whether you misheard me, whether you misunderstood the signs, whether you were being unrealistic or naive. You wondered why the journey took so long, why the path twisted in ways you never expected, why certain hardships unfolded without explanation. But hear me now. The long road was not a contradiction of my promise. It was the preparation needed for its fulfillment. Nothing spoken over your life was ever empty. Nothing whispered into your spirit was ever accidental. Every longing aligned with my purpose was placed in you because its time would eventually come. And now, the alignment you have waited for is forming with such intentionality that you will look back on this season as the turning point where everything began to make sense. You will recognize this fulfillment not through sudden spectacle, but through quiet confirmations that build one upon another. Doors will open without force. Conversations will bring clarity you didn't expect. Opportunities will appear that feel tailor-made for who you've become, not who you used to be. People will enter your life who carry significance and alignment rather than confusion or instability. Even the areas where you once experienced repeated disappointment will begin to show signs of renewal, subtle at first, then increasingly undeniable. As this unfolds, you will realize that every delay, detour, heartbreak, and moment of waiting was shaping the foundation required to hold what is now coming to life. The healed version of you is stepping into a story the wounded version of you prayed for. The discerning version of you is stepping into rooms the uncertain version of you didn't believe you belonged in. The aligned version of you is stepping into opportunities the exhausted version of you wasn't equipped to recognize. The whole version of you is receiving blessings the broken version of you would have mishandled or feared. You will feel my guidance more clearly than ever. You will walk with a confidence rooted not in ego, but in the certainty that you are exactly where you are meant to be. The fulfillment of my words will not overwhelm you. It will fit you. It will feel natural. It will feel right. It will feel like you are stepping into the life that was always destined for you, long before you had the clarity or courage to perceive it. And as this fulfillment becomes visible, gratitude will rise within you effortlessly, not because everything is perfect, but because you will finally see how every moment, every battle, every breakthrough, every tear, every prayer, work together to bring you to this place. You are stepping into fulfillment now. Not someday. Not in theory. Now, the season where promise becomes reality, and where everything I have spoken begins to unfold before your eyes. Amen.